I would like to call this meeting to order on August 28th, 2025. Pat will now do roll call.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to take a couple of things out of order this morning. We are calling the joint meeting to order right now so that we can accommodate public comment. And then we will switch to the study session that is on the calendar for this morning. So I will take roll and then we can get started. City of Avondale, Councilmember Max White. City of Buckeye, Councilmember Jermaine Berry. City of Chandler, Councilmember O.D. Harris. City of El Mirage, Councilmember Monica Dorsey.
Present.
Town of Fountain Hills, Councilmember Peggy McMahon.
Present.
Town of Gilbert, Councilmember Kenny Buckland. City of Glendale, Vice Mayor Lauren Tomlichoff. City of Goodyear, Vice Mayor Wally Campbell.
Present.
Maricopa County Supervisor Steve Gallardo. He is appearing on WebEx today. City of Mesa, Councilmember Francisco Heredia.
Here.
City of Peoria, Councilmember John Edwards.
Present.
City of Phoenix, Councilmember Laura Pastor. Town of Queen Creek, Councilmember Brian McClure.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Councilmember Mary Ann McAllen.
Present.
City of Surprise, Councilmember Earl Greenberg.
Here.
City of Tempe, Councilmember Jennifer Adams.
Present.
City of Tolleson, Vice Mayor Jimmy Davis.
Present. Councilmember White is here as well. She is.
Great, thank you so much. Town of Wickenburg, Mayor B.G. Bratchert.
Present.
And Town of Youngtown, Mayor Michael LaVault.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Pat,
Thank you, Pat.
this is Supervisor Gallardo. I apologize. I am here.
Can't hear him.
You're saying he was here.
Yeah, yes, sir, I saw you. Thank you.
Avondale's present.
Thank you.
Okay, the public will be provided an opportunity at this time to address the committees on non-agenda items and all action items for the joint RPTA and VMR meeting agendas. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker unless the chair allows more at their discretion. A total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. And I believe we have a special group that wants to speak today. And is it Savvy
Services for the Blind.
Savvy Services for the Blind? Thank you, Pat. So Pat, come on up, whoever wants to first. And
Mr. James, see this light in front of you?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I'll beat it by a while.
Set for 3 minutes. You'll get a caution light. That means you'll have 1 more minute.
Okay, do I need to identify myself?
That would be.
My name is Kevin James. I reside in the city of Surprise. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to comment today. First off, I'd like to say Pat has been wonderful to deal with. Very impressive. You've got a gem there. My request today is when you call in on the telephone, it'll say press 1 or whatever. That is real easy if you've got a touch tone phone, but if you've got a flat screen smartphone, how do you find the 1? So there are plenty of places that have the option of press 1 or say 1 or whichever number it is. So our ask of the board is to direct staff to find out how difficult and how much it would be to transition to that touch or say system within your organization. And the follow-up request would be if there was possible to have a rough draft or preliminary findings on that at the meeting in September so we could attend that. And my last ask as part of that would be to have the cost estimate also put as a percentage of total Valley Metro revenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Yes, Eddie Evans.
Come on up.
I can help you.
Okay, thank you.
Podium's right in front of you.
Okay,
And your microphone is
right there.
in front of you.
Okay, my name's Eddie Evans. I'm 72 years old. And 10 years ago, I started losing my vision. It wasn't until a year ago that my 13th eye care doctor diagnosed me with retinitis pigmentosus, which is genetic and damages the retina. And slowly over 10 years, my vision has gotten worse and worse to where now I can't even see the face on my cell phone. So I interact with my cell phone with voice commands. I use Dial-A-Ride to go to Savvy. I use Paratransit to go to the LDS Temple in Mesa. And both require that I touch a number to make a reservation or check the status of a reservation. I have been left on the street with no pickup, and I have had to have people help me dial Paratransit in order to find out why no one came to pick me up. I am learning TalkBack, which is a tool, but I'm finding it extremely challenging to find the keypad as well as the numbers in order to do this on my own. And I review all my bank and credit card transactions, and all those services have touch or say. And I would benefit greatly from having touch or say in order to complete my transactions. The other thing I had to point out, I wasn't with Savvy a year ago. Early September, I contacted Valley Metro, talked with a George who said he was in quality control, told him my dilemma, wanted to know if there was any way to have touch or say. He said he would pass it on to IT and that someone would call me. 4 months later, I called again, talked with George. He said he would pass it on to IT and someone would call me. 3 months later, I got Monique and told her the situation.
She said she would pass it on to IT. Someone would call me. And about 3, 4 weeks ago, I called again, got another lady who filled out an internal email as a complaint, even though I wasn't complaining, I was just trying to get a resolution. And she documented my situation. And Monique responded with a voicemail to me that it was being passed on to someone within Valley Metro. So I've literally been trying without Savvy for a year to find a solution that assists me in being able to be more independent and communicate with Dial-A-Ride and paratransit. I've also registered with Ride Choice, but they also require you to push numbers and not do touch or say. So that's all I wanted to comment on.
Thank you so much. Do we have another speaker?
Yes, Mr. Don Knowles.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Donald Knowles. I'm a resident in the city of Peoria. I am also a full-time employee of Savvy Services for the Blind. I'm an instructor and I work full-time. I'm also a service-connected disabled Marine Corps veteran who has decided to continue working. I am no light perception blind, total blind, and I've continued I changed my career from construction. I had an accident, ended up blind, and I continued on, received my master's degree in blind and low vision studies. And my ask to the council is, as a homeowner and taxpayer of the city of Peoria, the most difficult challenge I've faced as a blind individual is transportation. I have taken the paratransit system, and on the face of it, it's a great idea. In actuality of taking that transportation daily, it's been a challenge, to say the least. There's been more times than I can count, 30 to 40 times in the last 4 or 5 years, that I've waited in excess of 3 hours for my ride to pick me up. And then it was another 2.5 hours to get me home. And after working all day. And many, many times it takes 2.5 hours to get to work from Peoria to 7th and Thomas. So my ask is, the city of Peoria has not pursued Ride Choice as an option, especially for our working disabled. And I am a senior as well. I'm over 65. And I ask that this be looked into and find out what the options are to present a program in the city of Peoria for the blind community, especially, that's who I'm speaking for, to get to work and to get to the store and to get to other places. Currently, I'm getting to work the best I can. I can no longer take paratransit. It just is not an option. And I was on the verge of quitting my employment. And I teach 30 students a day, really, and on a daily basis. And I don't want to quit this job. I've worked hard for it, and I know that I'm appreciated where I work. But the paratransit system is not an option for me. And I ask that the Ride Choice be looked into as a viable option for the working blind and disabled of the city of Peoria. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next person to speak is Marion Walker.
Hello, my name is Marion Walker. I'm 71 years old. I reside in Mesa. I just started using public transit in January. So far, I have two concerns. My first concern is they put my ID number with the wrong name. The name that they put was Dustin. And each time they would pick me up, they would ask for Dustin. And when I kept calling and telling them, they told me there's nothing they can do because it's basically on AI and that it was a Uber problem, not the Metro problem. So I tried to call Uber, but that was not an option. I just got AI all the time. So I gave up on that. My second concern is when I did use an Uber 3 weeks ago today, I got out of class. I got into my Uber and my instructor says, Marian, he doesn't speak English. So I went anyway. He got me to where I live, but he dropped me at the wrong house. And when I got out, I thought I was at my house. And then as I was swinging my cane, I noticed there was gravel. And my husband and I don't have gravel in the front yard. At that point, I began to panic because I thought, is this even the right neighborhood? But I counted the speed bumps, so I thought I was in the right neighborhood. So finally, I have a tracking device on my phone, and I called my husband. Luckily, I was in the wrong number, which was number 12, instead of 15, which was my number. Those are my only two concerns. I appreciate everything I've learned, and I want to be independent for as long as I can. I'm completely blind. I've been completely blind for 1 year and 7 months. And I don't want to lose the independence that I have by being fearful to travel on public transit. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Kimberly Fetterman?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Kimberly Fetterman, and I am a resident of the city of Peoria for the last 26 years. I went blind 6 years ago and was working for USA for 18 years and tried to magnify my screen as big as I couldn't do it anymore. So I got training, and then I got employed by Savvy Services for the Blind. And I love the advocacy that we have here because we want to stay independent. And where I live, I can't take paratransit to get to my place of work, which is at 7th Street and Thomas. In order for me to get there, I would have to get from my house, which is 107th Avenue in Deer Valley, to Union Hills and 83rd Avenue. From there, I have to wait for a paratransit to pick me up. And when I do that, I've had an experience where people have come up and approached me thinking that I'm a vulnerable person and asked me for money. I've had to sit out there in the heat when it's 100 and some degrees out there, waiting an hour to get that paratransit ride to get into Savvy. And then the same thing with coming home. They drop me off at that Walmart there because they won't come into my house. Before the pandemic came, they came to my house all the way and they would take me into Savvy. I don't know what happened in between, but as my colleague Don Knowles said, that Ride Choice is an on-demand transportation where we can get to that ride when we call right away. We don't have to do it the day ahead of time. And even in the city of Peoria, when I would get their rides, there was many times to go to like the doctor's office, they would say that if there's availability, they would be able to pick me up. I said, well, I'm going to the doctor. What happens then? Sorry, they wouldn't be able to pick me up. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. My one question would be to find out the cities that are doing the Ride Choice successfully that I know of are Mesa, Scottsdale, Tempe. How are you guys doing it? What is it affecting the cities and how can we get that implemented into the city of Peoria? So thank you guys so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And Beverly Smith.
My name is Beverly Smith, and I live in the city of Glendale. I'm 77 years old. I had the chance to ride Ride Choice for a short time before they quit the pilot program. When I learned that I was going to have to do regional dial-a-ride and it was a bus, I was scared to death. I'd never ridden on a bus like that before. The first time I rode it, I thought, I'm not going to ride this anymore because it's not comfortable. The seats, they hit the bumps and the speed bumps and the dips and whatever, and they bounce you all around. I do have a bad back. It's getting worse because I'm doing the regional dial-a-ride. I heard that that Ride Choice was given $400,000 for the pilot program, and they only used $40,000. What happened to the rest of the money? I would like to see Ride Choice come back to Glendale. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours to get to Savvy Services, and I need that program. I am partially sighted. I do have some sight, but for how long, I don't know. I want the tools to be able to be independent when and if I go totally blind, and that's the only place I can go. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours from my house to Savvy and 2 hours from Savvy home. I only live 13 miles away. How long? It don't take that long in a car. It takes like half an hour, maybe. I appreciate you listening to me, and thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, ma'am. Chair, that is the end of the public comment request for today.
Councilmember Pastor has a comment.
Yes, I wanted to thank the Savvy members who have made their way to Valley Metro. I know it was probably a little bit of a ride for you, but I also want to mention that Savvy sits in the city of Phoenix in my district, District 4. So I will work with the Savvy executives also to listen and hear what are some of the challenges. I do want to say, and I hope I get his name right, that Tom Young, I believe, was the one who was teaching me how to cook as I was experiencing what it meant or how you live in a world without sight. And I had to learn how to cook. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn count and realize where I was going and had to use all my different senses in order for me to move and operate as if I had sight. It was very challenging for me. And I heard somebody talk about wanting to be independent and not wanting to be fearful in getting into a car or bus and and trust that that's what was happening. I can tell you I was very fearful at that moment and experience without sight. So I commend all of those that are here and are living and breathing and thriving in your environment. So thank you for coming and voicing your opinion.
Yes, I believe the CEO has some comments about this situation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you especially to Mr. James, Mr. Evans, Mr. Knowles, Ms. Walker, Ms. Fetterman, and Ms. Smith for joining us today to share your experiences, concerns, and aspirations for using Valley Metro and other mobility services across the region. Our goal is that you would enjoy the freedom of mobility. I would like to report on a couple of things we have been working on, thanks to the work of Ms. Dillon in coordination with Maida Smalsek of IT. When she received an initial public comment regarding interactive voice response, they jumped to work. I am pleased to report that our phone numbers will be upgraded to include voice response by September 30th, so that you can now dial or say one, for example, to get to your next queue. I realize that's just one of the concerns that we heard today. What we will do, Mr. Tom Young, who's our Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Operations, is waiting in the wings to have conversations so that we can understand how we can solve some of these individual challenges better. Your presence today is timely. We do have a couple of items on the agenda related to paratransit. One is the purchase of new dispatch software that we are hoping will help us achieve efficiencies and be more responsive to our customers. I hear you on the wait times on paratransit and on the long time in the vehicle on paratransit. I've also heard about ride choice, and it's been a little while since we've done an accessible transportation presentation to the board. Perhaps it would be timely to schedule such a presentation in the near future. There is an array, kind of a patchwork of mobility services, including ride choice and paratransit, and there are a number of operators. We also have some policy changes coming up. So I think the presence of the Savvy Services clients and team members today is very timely, and I would welcome an opportunity to share that and also to receive direction from the board, because the landscape of mobility for our elderly and disabled neighbors does look different from community to community. Would welcome the opportunity to have that conversation.
Would we be able to revisit this situation like in 2 months when you have some more time to get things ironed out and hear from the group about what their experiences are?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes. Councilmember Davis.
I'm glad to hear that you are upgrading the phone systems. I have a rare autoimmune disease, and so part of that I actually experienced blindness for about a month. And so I feel for you and some of the struggles. I've been lucky enough to get my autoimmune disease under control, and so my vision is good most days. Today is one of those days where things are a little blurry. So I understand needing to rely on things like transportation. I couldn't drive during that time. Councilwoman Pastor mentioned cooking. I remember distinctly a time having to walk my sister through how to cook me something, because I also have to eat a very particular diet. So it's very important that we do make all of our transportation options as accessible as possible.
Madam Chair.
Chair Adams, Councilmember Edwards has a comment.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those members, the residents that are there from Peoria, I apologize for not being able to meet with you personally today. I have asked Pat to give my information to you and to get your information to me so that I can have members of the city staff in Peoria reach out to you and do everything we possibly can to help rectify the issues that you're having going forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
To the gentleman from Surprise, how did you get here today? If you want to hang around till the end of the meeting, I'll drive you home. Oh, okay. All right.
He's a busy man. Oh, boy.
Well, you can help there.
Yes.
I can help.
Your new mayor for the day. Very good, thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment right now? Yes, Councilmember White.
Madam Chair, it sounds like we are going to have a study session then, or I would propose a study session after 60 days is completed to see the before and after, and also to include a grid of all of our member agencies' level of service so that riders will have an understanding of what's offered in different areas in the 19 regions in the 19 municipalities or towns that we serve. So they might know how to connect if you can get maybe, from Surprise into Phoenix, or, maybe you're coming from Buckeye to Avondale. Maybe we could find connectors that'll help them too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, so we have a plan. 2 months, we're going to reconvene and see how things are going. That'll be your little checklist here. So thank you for joining us today. Our next item on the agenda is number 2.
Chair Adams, we
sorry.
will switch over to the study session now.
Oh, okay.
So that we can get that taken care of, and then we will come back to the joint agenda.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pat. Yeah.
I'm always worried about that.
I don't know what she. Community engagement. Right, you have some trouble.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the board, we are pleased to present this morning at the request of the board a study session on a community engagement framework. This study session came at the request of Councilmember Pastor and Councilmember Heredia. Hillary Foos, our Chief of Marketing and Communications, David Urbanato, Deputy Chief of Community Engagement, are here to provide you with a presentation. In your packet, you also have a print draft community engagement framework as well as the presentation. We're sharing this framework today for your input and direction. It is in draft form. We are focusing on deepening our community engagement activities across our entire service area. We view community engagement as a series of relationships that are meant to deepen and evolve over time and occur on an ongoing basis about our customers and communities' experience with their services, like the conversations we're having here today with the public. Also engagement around things like capital projects or major service changes. Historically, our engagement has been pretty focused, admittedly, on some of our big projects, but it's that ongoing relationships and collaboration that we're also looking to add. So we welcome your feedback and direction on our community engagement framework this morning. Hillary.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for your time, attention, and ideas today. As Jessica mentioned, I'm Hillary Foos. I'm the Chief of Marketing Communications. I'm here alongside David.
I'm Deputy Chief David Urbanato. Good to be here.
So as Jessica mentioned, we are here to engage with you all on our community engagement program, wanting to hear your input ideas as we seek to strengthen our program and increasingly embed diverse input into all of Valley Metro's programs and projects, of which there are many, as you know. What we'll be covering today, as mentioned in your packet, we have a draft community engagement framework. And I say draft as we are hoping for your feedback today in order to finalize that document. We will share the elements within that framework, as well as how the framework will be put to use. We'll give you an example today of how the framework will help guide very detailed engagement plans. And as mentioned, your input is critical today, so we appreciate the time. What is this framework? Foundational to our strategic plan and the goal of stakeholder collaboration, this framework springs forward up from that very important foundation to serve as a guiding document as we seek to deepen our connection, relationships, and our program. The framework shares our philosophy, process, resources, and other considerations as we will use it to build detailed plans to connect our many communities and serve our projects and programs. It was developed based on our current commitments and practices. We have a wonderful team who works very hard. So it wants to document those efforts, as well as this framework also has input from our peers and industry organizations seeking to learn from best practices, enhance our program. Also, by listening to our cities and communities, we built this document to make sure we're incorporating those important voices, building innovative plans, and delivering messaging to the broader community. Ultimately, wanting to further embed community engagement in all of our projects and increase opportunities for meaningful engagement across a broad spectrum. And this list is not comprehensive, but certainly our riders, residents, employers, neighbors, community partners, and of course, the general public. This is simply a framework that we will use as a baseline to build, as mentioned, detailed plans and tailored plans into the future. Oops. As is referenced in your framework, here shows our core values and commitments to community engagement. We seek to build trust, deepen engagement with our community through being persistently inclusive and accessible, meeting our customers where they are, increasing our transparency, essentially opening the door, explaining our process adapted from their feedback, and demonstrating how their input is being used, creating that feedback loop. Also being very relationship focused, as Jessica mentioned, through two-way communication, being immersive in our community and present throughout the broadest cross-section of a particular community or audience. As an organization that is inherent to this team and approach, we are customer first through a proactive, collaborative, and wide-reaching engagement. We seek to incorporate all voices and prioritize their input. Here is our spectrum of community engagement, essentially the steps we will take for engaging communities. And many plans will go through all steps depending on the scope and expected outcomes. We will start by informing and listening to the public, explaining the project, identifying audiences, listening to the community as well as our city partners' preferences, essentially becoming very immersed in the community. Involve entails a detailed and multi-prong engagement strategy, identifying benchmarks, creating a feedback loop, delivering a regular cadence of communication. Also that communication extending to not only the impacted community, but to the broader community. And then collaborate and empower. We will be leaning on the local community and partners for their expertise and reach, ensuring feedback opportunities are generating expected outcomes, putting the people's voice at central to decision-making. And lastly, we will evaluate. We will make sure that we're improving as we move along, ensuring effectiveness, documentation, and reinventing our efforts as needed. Just as reference, some common outcomes across these phases include community surveys, envisioning with the community and our partners, detailed community engagement plans, broader communication plans, meaning sharing the facts, merits, and how a project fits into a broader community vision. So talking to the broader region and community, certainly benchmarks and reporting and transparency, as well as community partnerships and being highly participatory in the community that we're working in. Audiences and resources. So who we will engage in throughout what resources. Certainly a critical step in this framework in developing community engagement plans is identifying our audiences. We will do this through research and broad community understanding. Research may include surveys, canvassing, general community participation, focus groups, just to name a few. Also through understanding of all community dynamics. There's a lot going on within these communities and we want to understand it. So certainly looking at demographics, geography and land use, what's active, what activity centers are active in the community, and certainly unseen and hard to reach markets as just a few examples. The plans will develop specific strategies for all of those groups, again, from residents to businesses to neighborhoods to organizations, and certainly our audiences, multilingual audiences, multicultural, and audiences of all abilities. It is through staff in reference to resource planning, staff, consultants, and our frontline workforce that we will effectively hear and engage from the public. Internal resources include our engagement leadership and staff, and we again have a great team working hard in this space. Today we have 9 team members in community engagement between David here, a manager, and 7 coordinators who are working to support all of those rider, potential rider, and community engagement on behalf of service, operations, and also our capital program. In addition, we'll be leaning on other internal resources, including project management and technical teams here within Valley Metro, from service planning, operations and maintenance, and capital development. We will also be working internally and externally with our colleagues in marketing communications to make sure that we're leveraging their talents to build materials and visuals that message to the broader community. Our frontline staff is key. Obviously, they're important conduits to the public, but they also give us important insights that we will use to help, again, build effective campaigns. And certainly consultants, we have several contracts. One of them is before you today, who augment our effort and often adding capacity and expertise as needed. We have contracts that support us from a community engagement standpoint, marketing and research, as well as others. And so you'll see, again, one today, and they all come before you at different points in time to ensure we continue to leverage these resources to allow us to staff up and staff down for projects and programs. And certainly with your support and the support of our CEO, we've been working to embed greater management, support, expertise, and institutional knowledge with the investment in new community engagement staff. We have a new supervisor in the budget this year to support planning, project engagement, and so we're working on that across FY26. So thank you for your support there. Jumping to our toolbox, this is a list of commonly used tools that we use in community engagement, not meant to be an exhaustive list, and it's a list that changes all the time, as you might imagine. We use these tools as we define the scope, goals, and audience for the particular plan. And then they also change and innovate over time. These tools can range from certainly in-person engagement to virtual open houses to targeted advertising, and certainly on system, like being on our bus and rail system and engaging with our riders as an example. And certainly very open and have good practices of leveraging new technology, working with our local media and partners, and then certainly, as mentioned, adjusting and changing as needed. So how this framework will be used, we'll leverage this framework to guide our efforts and serve as the foundation for detailed engagement plans. So while this framework is high level, it will serve as an important reference as we build those detailed and tailored plans for the different projects and programs. And we will also use visioning, partnering, research, and best practices to continually evaluate and build upon our program. Now I'm going to turn it over to David to bring this plan to life, referencing an upcoming example.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. As Hillary said, at this point, we want to move from the conceptual to the application. The upcoming comprehensive operational analysis of the Valley-wide bus system is a good way to illustrate how we break down community engagement problems and how a framework guides that. The comprehensive operational analysis is a thorough review and re-examination of the entire Valley-wide bus system. It's a huge undertaking. And our task is to paint a picture or draw a map of ways to maximize our system's efficiency and responsiveness and allocate resources where they'll have the greatest benefit to riders. And so, the route map is just a good graphic illustration of the scope, scale, and breadth of how far-reaching this process is. So in phase one, we've worked in the inform, listen, and involve pieces of our spectrum. That's where we primarily are working in phase one, as Hillary outlined in slide 5. Our draft spectrum is adapted from the International Association for Public Participation Spectrum of Community Engagement. It's kind of the gold standard in public participation for good reason. We adapted it and rephrased it a little bit to make it clearer and more tangible to a broad, non-professional universe of audiences. So in the discovery phase, we focus on audience identification. That's key and prominent piece of what we do in this phase. That includes demographic research, utilizing ridership, transit center, and census data to develop a clear understanding of riders, where they are, and the obstacles to reaching them, particularly diverse and hard to reach communities. We focus on communications and marketing integration, and focus particularly on project branding, messaging, and graphics. We focus on consultant onboarding where we have to communicate our engagement plan and needs and define how they'll help us execute that. Key audiences for this stage are agency and key stakeholders, boards and commissions. Community-based organizations are a big one we're going to have to lean on as the community voice, as community voices, and a vital connection to hard-to-reach communities. Our operators are going to serve, our frontline operators are going to serve as an important audience. They're route captains. They have insights to our system that we need. Current riders, non-riders, potential riders. We have Title 11 and limited English proficiency populations, riders with disabilities and users of mobility devices, and then the non-riding population at large. So given the scope and scale of the comprehensive operational analysis, we'll need a broad spectrum of engagement strategies, pretty much all of the ones that Hillary has mentioned. It's going to focus a lot on open houses and focus groups so that where we can get that qualitative input, both virtual and in person, canvassing and on-system outreach, reaching riders on board, reaching them where they are, one-on-one presentations with community-based organizations, comprehensive project website and story map, print and meeting in a box materials, a mix of quantitative and qualitative surveying. That's where the focus groups and that qualitative input and quantitative surveying we match those up and combine those. Pop-up events on the system, social, digital media, and then media engagement and broader public relations. And again, on this phase, we really focus on how we match tactics to the particular needs and preferences of each audience. What works with one audience obviously will not work well with another. So we have to have a clear map of what's going to work with who and where our holes are. So phase 2, we will certainly be in the inform, listen, involve. Those are central across the project. But we will move into the collaborate and empower phases. And we'll have concrete recommendations on the table at this phase. So engagement will understandably shift. It will bring spectators of the first phase into the discussion, and it requires us to have collaborative conversations about priorities and preferences. And discovery in phase 2 would look like really reporting. That's really the focus. A clear, comprehensive report of input, preferences, and ridership data. A recommendations report that clearly spells out how engagement and public input shape the recommendations. Hillary mentioned this, closing the feedback loop. It's one thing to have a comprehensive process, but you lose a huge opportunity to connect with your audiences if they don't understand how their input impacted the outcome and the final recommendations. And again, for audiences, we want to build in and account for any audiences that we learned about in phase 1. And elected board and council presentations will be a more prominent part of phase 2, just because we're in the recommendation phase. And then obviously, we will want to build a comprehensive recommendations webpage that serve as a single comprehensive source on where we've been, where we're at, and where we're proposing to go.
So thank you, David. At this point, we're looking for your input. I know we were a little bit rapid fire and shared a lot with you. We're passionate about our efforts and where we're going. And so at this stage, we welcome your input on how we can add to or adjust our efforts, and welcome your voices at this time.
Well, I think I have some eager people to talk about, so.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. It's pretty broad. It's one of my first things is, how are you going to measure your success? I mean, it's great that you have all these ideas, et cetera, but how are you going to measure your success? How often are you going to look at that? Are you going to do it by town? Or you're going to come back to the board quarterly, et cetera? In addition, are you going to engage any of council members within our towns and sit down with us and see maybe what we can do to work with you, to give you ideas of who to reach out to, maybe do council presentations, et cetera? I'd like a little bit more practical information about exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to gather this information, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Council Member, thank you for the question. Yes, it is broad, and that was we're at this stage where we want to be at this level, get your input, but measures will be a part of every plan that we develop. And so those plans are really around different projects and programs across the spectrum of Valley Metro. So if we talk about a capital project, within that capital project's involvement plan, we will have what measures are relevant there based on the scope, audiences, and the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So certainly measuring as part of that evaluation stage and throughout is going to be critical. Some measures, as you might imagine, they again adjust based on the project or program, but certainly the number of voices we hear from, the demographics of those voices, the broader engagement we receive, which we track constantly. We have a stakeholder database that we use to track all stakeholder engagements, from phone calls to emails to canvassing to direct mail. Anything is tracked in that database. So we also believe in highly measuring and making sure we're looking at what we're doing to evolve it and make sure it's being effective. In terms of reporting back to the board, that's one of our slides here today. Is a thought that we had was incorporating measures and outcomes into the quarterly report that comes before the board on the various programs that we are working and active in at that time. And then we also want to update this plan with some cadence and look for your impact or input there. But if there's more, we certainly welcome and appreciate the board's involvement in their local communities. And so as you would like to be engaged, we would welcome that.
And then I think we have a council member,
Yes.
McGowan.
Thank you both very much. Sorry. Thank you very much for your presentation. Just quick thoughts in your stakeholder groups. Before city council, I would go down to the people actually doing the work, go to those transportation planners, go to your intergovernmental people who are thinking about the connection at a higher level, the people at the base level.
Absolutely.
Members of our human services department that deal with the senior centers, the nutrition sites, all of those. Maybe, I don't know if you do that, it would probably be more efficient to do it on a Zoom, so all the cities could take place, like some sort of large meeting. And then, kind of pare it down from there. Let them all start to think about what you're doing. And then they can bring you back information from each city as opposed to going to every city and making it huge. But they may also say, oh, here's another group. Like today, we just saw outside nonprofit stakeholders, as well as we're bringing you the municipalities and towns, but outside it's even beyond our scope. But our people within our municipalities deal with these groups, especially through human services, et cetera. But I mean, as you were talking, I was like, oh, there's another group, there's another group. So, but they really do, the transportation planners, the human services people, and of course, the intergovernmental people. They're worrying about other issues that people who are actually in the trenches. But thank you so much. I mean, this is a very large project, but obviously much needed. We heard from our stakeholders today, not positive, but we'll be able to give them a response. It'll be measured in a month. We'll know we'll have the touchstone.
Yes,
So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members that would like to comment at this time? Councilmember White?
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Hillary, for the presentation. I appreciate both of your preparation for this. I think one of the indicators that we're getting here is as we go out to the community, we need to have all modes and methods available for the community to give us feedback. So any way we engage them has to be accessible. And we have to consider alternative accessibility needs for the range of populations. So we heard from the blind community today, making sure that we're making things accessible also for our community that's unable to hear. Sensory community also uses our services, so those who might not have feeling and be able to touch a phone and other mobility needs. So I think we have to look at all the 5 senses and how they can be limited and make sure everything we do to engage community is automatically accessible so we don't have to go back and do it again.
Highly agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get this down. Is there anyone else that wants to make comment at this time? Okay. Councilmember Pastor.
I was just waiting for Councilmember Ed Edia. Since we're the ones who brought it here. I really thank you for having a high-level framework, but a high-level framework is one thing versus really getting into the community and seeing if the actual framework happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I struggle with the framework. I'm just gonna put it out there. I struggle with the framework because I have been in several community pieces where all these elements are coming into play and there's one or two people or three people, I'll give you three, that show up. And I believe that's really why we brought this to the forefront. So something in this framework is not connecting with the community. And I think we need to go back and look at, I'm a assistance person in the sense of, this is great in the sense as a high level, but I'm detailed. And I want to understand why this touch is not working, what touch will work. You used some terms on feedback. So you said you would loop them in or go back and you would close the loop. How do you demonstrate that? How do you do that? How are you closing the loop and how do you know you have a loop?
So, Madam Chair, Councilmember Pastor, appreciate your comments. And if helpful, this, as mentioned, a high-level framework that we'll use as a baseline. We can provide a detailed plan for even the COA. David went over it today at a high level, but we can provide that to you, as I know that detail is appreciated. In terms of feedback loop, what we do today, and this is an area that we emphasized in the framework because it needs to be enhanced. For some of our capital projects, as an example, we catalog all the feedback we get, and we also post it online and regroup with certain groups as to how their feedback is being used. It is not as comprehensive and thoughtful as we'd like it to be, and this is an area where we'd like to see improvement. So it's emphasized here because it's where we want to be going more often.
Okay, appreciate that. I would like to, I think as elected bodies who know our communities, really need to, I'm just a detail person, I'm in the trenches, and I have to deliver the message of Valley Metro. And the messages that sometimes get out there are not popular or positive. And so I'm trying to figure out in this framework, I guess I need more details in the framework. I guess that's what I'm saying. I would like to see more details in the framework. I would like to talk about those details with our body, because I think we know our communities and we're able then to say, yeah, that doesn't work in mine, but it may work in yours. And I'm very fresh off of this. So the other piece is you're going to do a comprehensive operational analysis of the bus system. Well, the city of Phoenix runs their own bus system. And we're one of the biggest, I guess, partners. And we have our own animal that we deal with internally. How is that going to be done?
If I may, thank you, Madam Chair, Councilmember Pastor. So with respect to the comprehensive operational analysis or the network redesign for the bus system, we are working hand in glove with our city partners, including and especially City of Phoenix, who has walked beside us in the development of that scope of work, the procurement of professional services, and is involved. We've got a series of committees that are being led by our service planning team. Mike Leishman, Deputy Chief of Service Planning, is on point for that. So City of Phoenix is right there with us as a partner, which I commend them for their willingness to do that, recognizing we do have multiple operators within the region, but the network, the way the network exists today, if you can imagine that system map that David shared on the slide, these routes traverse many of our jurisdictions. And for our riders, it matters not to them that their trip began in Mesa, but it ended in Phoenix. And so we need that continuity. And I am so pleased that there has been a regional appetite to have a conversation about what service needs to look like. Now, we're not to the point yet where we're cracking eggs and really having hard conversations about trade-offs in service levels, for instance, versus frequencies, but we'll get there, and we will work to be responsive to our stakeholders, especially our member cities, but also at the fore, the riding public.
Yeah, I actually think the people are the riders.
Yeah.
I'm just responding to what I have.
Yeah.
The other piece, let me see what I wrote. Obviously, it's accessibility. The biggest thing I think in this whole process is trust. And the biggest, what I have gotten during COVID and after COVID and currently, is that people don't trust government. And so my dynamic is, how do we reach those that are using the system and also those that think the system work, but want to understand exactly what we're doing. And then I just think the naysayers are the naysayers. But there's a population that we really need to look at to really get them to become writers. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have. The piece on consultant onboarding, it's great to have consultants. The experiences that I am currently having with consultants is that it's very easy to hand over and say, well, that was the consultant that did that, when the responsibility is either the city or the Valley Metro. And I don't want to hide behind a consultant. I want us to do the work. I think it's important that we build I don't know what we call it, an arm, a function within the Valley Metro to be delivering these services. A consultant gets hired, they just go in, they did their job, they knocked on the door, I knocked once, twice, nobody answered, I left something. I want feedback. I want, after paying all that money, I want to see results. To me, having all this money, I'm just thinking about something right now, all this money spent on outreach, and then we only get 400 people to respond. There's something wrong and disconnected. And so I'm just saying, because this has been a 2-year process for me, to say we need to really dig in. I can give other feedback in written form, but that's why we brought it here.
If I may, Madam Chair, Councilmember Pastor. So some of what we have been working through, and we discussed this a little bit even in the FY26 budget process, was shifting away some of our functions, namely community engagement, in this conversation to be more agency owned. Because we've got to have the same people. We've got to have Juliana and David and Renata, who are getting to know the communities. They're forming those relationships. They're carrying those relationships moving forward. The bulk of the work, both the strategic direction and the boots on the ground, will be delivered by this team, not just the community engagement team, but the other subject matter expert teams. So that's service planning on the comprehensive operational analysis. It's the operations team. It's our customer experience coordinators who are out there. We will use consultants really for our large projects. See, the comprehensive operational analysis, this is a large project. That's a higher level engagement. If we think of a smaller project, a small capital project, or our now quarterly service change cadence, that's engagement we'll be doing entirely in-house. So I think of consultant resources in this space as an extension of staff and not the body that is responsible for planning, designing, and delivering community engagement. They are adding horsepower, if you will, to us. This is a marked shift from how we've done it in the past. And I think it would be helpful if we could bring back a specific engagement plan, because the engagement plan is going to vary depending on the project. COA is a good one. We're on the precipice of beginning engagement, and it's all across the service area. So it touches each of the communities that you all serve as a board. So I think that'll be good. You're going to see things we haven't done in the past. We haven't done a lot of on-system engagement. So interacting with their riders, conducting surveys with them while they're on our system. We're also deepening our engagement with our frontline team. They are subject matter experts, think bus operators, who have a lot to say about what their customers need and how the routes are structured and how the schedules actually work. So we're creating that program now. We're also working to engage the expertise of our team across Valley Metro. So this is an all hands on deck. I don't know that it's coming across in a presentation because we're trying to stay high level in the study session and the time construct that we have to work with here. But there are a number of rather significant departures from past practice here.
Yes, Councilmember Heredia, do you have your hand up?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you
All
just
right,
speak up maybe a little bit louder, that'd be great.
All right, perfect. Thank you. No, I appreciate the presentation. I understand the conversation around high level. I think my point as I requested more information is the use of consultants, right? And ensuring that we what Councilmember Pastor was mentioning on how do we grab lessons learned and work to improve the outreach and communications pieces in the future, right? I see it even in our city that sometimes we hire consultants and it seems like it's very siloed effect, right? We do the work for that project and then it kind of ends there and there's a report issued and then we move on to the next project that has some similarities, but some of that information that we learned from the previous work, it doesn't kind of go into kind of the future projects that has similar pieces that we should have learned and grown and become better towards the future on reaching out with the public, right? And so I think that's my main piece for as we move forward in developing these outreach projects and communications pieces is that we make sure that we kind of pull our research and information and what we learned into the future work that's happening and how we can uplift public transportation even further and be better, right? And so I think that's my main pieces, and I think that those involve various details that I think you highlighted in more simple terms, of course, but I just want to press on that we definitely need to hone in on how we learn from the past to the future and how it makes moves the needle in people's dispelling misinformation that's out there and looking at all the components that make projects like these, like this big project on the bus operations, a lot easier per se to maybe craft and learn and build upon for our staff and any consultants that get hired to support it.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it. Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Chair. I was just reflecting on some of the commentaries that have been made, and I do respect the broad general scope of what we want to accomplish here. I think when I take a look at what would make me want to even fill out a survey, Councilmember Pastor hit the nail on the head where if we go through all this work and get like 400 surveys back, what a waste of money, right? I mean, we can't say it any other way. So if we don't have a plan, the outcome is to fail. So, I mean, I'm thinking of things that I'd hate to, have a consultant come in and be like, oh, you guys should have a free ride day. Cause I'm sitting here thinking about it right now. but they might spend like 20 hours billable for us to say, maybe we should, have people get on the bus, and as they get on that day, earn your free ride by filling out our survey. How many more people might do that for us? So, I mean, I really want us to workshop this inside before we spend a lot of money outside. There's a lot of great ideas sitting in this room, sitting on our council daises throughout our cities and towns, because I can just imagine us spending a lot of money to get some answers that are already right here. With one of those as, let's offer some free rides to get some surveys done. Thank you very much.
Yes, Councilmember McGowan.
Thank you. Just what Councilmember White just said, as she's talking, I'm circling it and showing it to Councilperson Pastor about a ride-along campaign. And the school districts can't afford to bus their own kids. Let's get them on our lines. Let's make sure, I mean, you just heard about the school district in the West Valley who has no more bus lines because they misspent money. So the kids how are they getting to school? Those sort of things. But if you did a ride-along campaign either at the end of the school year or at the beginning of the summer or the end of the summer and teaching them how to ride, then you have new ridership and it'll feel trusted because Laura and Jennifer and Max are all riding together on the way, and I'm talking tweens, I'm talking middle school, high school, that sort of thing is really important. And it's funny how just us sitting here, every time another council person talks, another idea pops up, she writes one down, Peggy's writing one down. So it's all those things. But I think the school districts are a huge proponent. We used to joke about, I lived in Scottsdale growing up, and we'd see all the girls jumping off the bus from Xavier, and we'd laugh because they'd all have their shirts tied up high and their little skirts tied up high, not the way they left school. Just saying. It's a joke, but true. But true. It was just kind of not the St. Mary's girls, they always behaved. Hey, little levity, people. I'm Catholic, just saying. Yeah.
I'm a St. Mary's girls.
See, she did. Yeah. I went to Coronado. I took the bus to ASU. Not everybody gets a car for their 16th birthday. And I'm a Scottsdale girl. I took the number 9 south to ASU. So those are really important, populations that we may kind of skim over. But that's ridership that people know. When my car breaks down, I've got the bus system. Or I have the bus system and I don't need a car. And now I have light rail. I can take my car to Tempe, where I used to park at ASU, and take it downtown. That thought process is in all of our minds, but not in the general population. So retraining those certain populations all the way to middle school, and that encouraging parents, it's okay for your tweens to ride the bus. Let them have a little bit of independence. Let them have a little bit of freedom. If a 77-year-old blind person can ride the bus, your 12-year-old can hike it. Let's go. So,
Thank you.
just my thoughts.
Madam Chair, Councilmember, and also Councilmember Heredia. We couldn't agree more on, Councilmember Heredia, the concerns you expressed about consultants and the institutional knowledge that leaves the organization. That is a fact, and it's something we want to, with you all, move forward in a different direction about how we leverage consultants. Consulting out has been a very strong practice in this organization, and certainly in community outreach. We are shifting that, where we are seeking to develop a scope, guide the strategy, and then use consultants to really be boots on the ground and staff up our team. As you heard, we have 17 members who are actively in the field and across an amazing array of programs and projects. So over time, we'll look to you all to maybe think how we can embed some of those resources further into Valley Metro. And Councilmember McMahon, I appreciate McAllen, we appreciate the ideas. We do have a team member who dedicates herself to educating schools. She does 400 presentations a year, believe it or not, one person, to schools and senior centers and events. Certainly we can increase that. I love the idea about school districts directly. We also have a major thread in our budget this year to build upon our partnerships in terms of fair partnerships. And so I'm eager to work with residential communities and businesses, and certainly our school partners, to increase the availability of our recently renovated fair system that allows us to do some unique programming to meet those organizations where they are.
Very good. Are there any questions or comments? I just have a couple comments.
Please.
One is, I think it's really important that you talk to the bus drivers
Mhm.
because they're the experts in their community. Their community is their bus.
Yeah.
And what are they seeing day to day? And I just really believe in a lot of inclusion. And I think the bus drivers are really key
They are.
to having a lot of answers. I also like the ride along idea
Mhm.
and the survey idea. I think, get a ride free, you do the survey. We need to expand our tools, I'm sorry, our stats, gosh, what's the statistic?
Data set.
Thank you. We need to expand that so we have a wider net and it'll be more statistically significant in the end. So I'm just really, I think this has been a great discussion. I think we've had great ideas and do we have to wait another quarter to have you guys come back and talk about what's happening?
No. At your request and with the CEO, we have a scope for a detailed plan, which I think is where the board wants to see.
Yes.
We have a detailed plan that's in development for the COA. You saw it presented here today. We can provide that. We will work with you all and our CEO for timing, but that's in development. We could share that very, very soon.
Okay, that'd be great. The sample size is what I was trying to come up with. So it's been a while, but I did always get A's in stats, so.
Oh, good.
I'm a numbers person. So thank you very much. Anything else on this item? Okay, seeing none, I think we could go back to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Jessica.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As we have a full agenda, I will be brief. Welcome back, by the way, to the first meeting of the FY26 fiscal year and a newly seated roster of board leadership, including Chair Adams, Vice Chair White, Treasurer Pastor on the Valley Metro Rail side. We have Valley Metro Rail Chair Pastor, and we have Vice Chair Adams, by the way. A few things I want to update you on. Speaking of engagement, we're not just engaging our community and writers, but we are working to deepen our engagement with this board. So there are a few things that we are working on. First of all, is a board survey. You're going to see this released after our meeting today. We're going to ask you a series of questions. How are we doing? What's important to you in the space of engagement, governance, communication, strategic direction? How are the meetings running? And what does or doesn't work for you about them? And that feedback is going to help us shape our FY26 board engagement. We have also launched a tool. It'll go live this afternoon for each of you. It's a board website. This will be a repository for you. It's accessible with a logon and password that we'll provide to you. And from this website, you will be able to access meeting materials, governance documents, board policies, contracts, as well as other agency information. So we want to proactively load information on the board website so that you don't have to hunt for it. We've had a number of questions, and I'm delighted by the level of engagement we're seeing from the board about policies or examples of contracts that are coming before the board. So rather than sending it all to you in an email, we're going to host that on a website just for you. So stay tuned for an email from Pat Dillon this afternoon. In your packet, you have our quarterly plan, a quarterly update that includes our key performance metrics, as well as updates on our strat plan. I would just want to refer you in the interest of time to the packet for that information. A little bit on ridership. Let's talk about ridership. I'm pleased to share that while we've seen uneven growth in ridership over the last couple of years, we're now seeing system-wide levels of ridership growth. In June, compared to 2024, our ridership was 8.6% higher. That's great. That's across all modes of service. And in the past, bus had been a little bit languishing behind rail, and we're starting to see that boost in bus, including in some of our commuter and express buses, which is wonderful. I'm sure you're seeing the increased congestion out on the highway. We are pleased that more people are choosing Valley Metro to get to their destination. We did see a year-over-year increase of 12% in June of 2024. I think we're responsible for a whole lot of those boardings on Saturday, June 7th, when we opened the South Central Extension in Downtown Hub. I know I was on and off all day on that wonderful day. So we're continuing to monitor ridership on the still very new service. And our streetcar ridership which surpassed expectations. I mean, smashed expectations really in its first year of operation. Now we're a little over 3 years. It continues to grow. We did begin implementing fare and streetcar on August 4th. It's been fare-free from opening in May of 2022 until then. But we've been working very closely with the city of Tempe and some of our big partners like Arizona State University to ensure our customers are aware and are trying to get passes into their hands while still working with Tempe to collect that important revenue source. Shifting to our comprehensive operational analysis, which we have been talking about, in addition to our stakeholder updates, our teams have been working to really do the behind the curtains work. That is collecting data, monitoring the performance. We're developing that stakeholder engagement plan, and we'll begin engaging with the public in October of this year. And what that will look like, this is an initial conversation or an introduction. Here's what we know about how the system is working. What is or isn't working for you? So these are conversations that are very specific to rider experience. We're not going to speak to them in terms of data and charts and graphics. We're going to talk to them about their ride. How does it work for you? Where can you not go that you want to go on Valley Metro services today? So stay tuned for more on that big effort. I'm so excited to be doing it. And here's how that plan comes together. It seems a little bit abstract, I think, when we think about how do you redesign a transit network? Well, there's that travel behavior and rider information. So ridership data, we're also looking at how people travel in the region not on Valley Metro. So what trips are happening and where do we have big patterns that we're not capturing and how might we capture them? We're also looking at industry standard transit performance metrics and opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities to fine tune our route structure and our schedules, and I look forward to taking advantage of those. We are certainly responding to our built environment. That means our density, its land use, where people travel to. So our plan has got to be specific to the Valley. Also has to be tailored to our communities, and the level of service and the composition of service that works for Tempe is not going to be the same as the level of service and configuration that works for Surprise, for example, and we know that. So that's where the engagement from the cities and the community, as well as some of those transit industry best practices, fits together. In the end, our goal, it's an iterative process. We will come up with a suite of tailored community options. So stay tuned. We'll talk a lot more about that. What I want to mention as part of this South Central Extension and Downtown Hub, we opened our first community resource hub. This is right outside over at Cityscape. We're doing a pilot program right now. We have members of our customer service team who are stationed at this location. They're inside, they're providing customer support on the phone, but they're also answering questions and helping customers find their way from inside that hub. We also are using this as a hub for our customer experience coordinators who are pictured here. This is also a hub for our own security program, as well as Phoenix Police Department. We aim to create a base for these critical frontline teams to make it easier for them and more comfortable for them as well, especially in the month of August, to be out there on the system all day, every day. And we are staffed 7 days a week with security forces during all of our operating hours. Speaking of security, I want to provide you with an update. This is a hot button topic, and it's going to continue to be. I am pleased to report a number of great successes. Recall that we transitioned our security contract to a firm called Intercon on May the 12th, deliberately in advance of the opening of the South Central Extension and Downtown Hub. This transition represents a significant increase in level of service and presence across the system. During our last contract, and again, we didn't have South Central then, but during the last contract, we had the equivalent about 165 full-time employees dedicated to providing contract security across the system. Today, we have an equivalent of about 255 frontline team members, plus an additional 32 supervisors supporting them throughout the service area. I see them, our customers see them, they are telling us about it. They are wearing bright yellow shirts, so they're a lot more high visibility. And I am pleased to report that we are receiving customer complaints about having fares inspected too much. And there are a few customer complaints that give me a little bit of relief, but that one does. We've come a long way from you're not inspecting fares and I don't see anybody to give me a break on the fare inspection, please. We have also seen a significant reduction in incidents, including assaults or trespassing across the rail system. We have dropped 47% relative to our FY24 level of recordable incidents. So I congratulate our Chief Adrian Ruiz and her team who are working very hard to keep our customers and our team members safe and secure. A big part of our security program has to be our member community, police departments, and civilian services. We're continuing to lean into our relationships with police, inviting them onto the rail and the bus system. On the rail side, we have conducted 10 compliance details in the last quarter with the city of Phoenix. That's 589 contacts made with customers. And ideally, everything is going well, but sometimes we issue citations and sometimes we help people pay their fare, but that police presence is absolutely essential. On the bus side, we're not forgetting about our critical bus system. We've seen a 60% reduction in bus operator assaults relative to FY24. Being a bus operator is a hard job. It's a difficult schedule. You are serving the commuting public every day. And at a minimum, our operators have to know that they're going to be safe and secure when they come to work. I credit the engagement of our local police departments, the state of Arizona, for passing legislation to make transit worker assaults a felony. And when you get on board a bus, you are greeted with a sign that tells you straight away, assaults on transit workers is a felony.
Jessica,
So,
can I
yeah.
interrupt you just for a minute? How are we getting this out to the public? Because I always hear, oh, I don't feel safe on the bus, you know, or light rail or whatever it is. So how are we, because this is very powerful information.
It is.
And I want to make sure that we're getting this out to the public.
Yeah, we have been doing some passive campaigns that just feature to date visual appearance of security. So kind of quietly dribbling that out. But now that we're confident, we've got some successes because we didn't want to toot our horns too early. Now we're working with our Hillary and our communications team to develop a proactive security messaging program because we need our riders and our team members to feel safe, but we need the rest of the community to know that they're safe and secure, and we want to welcome them aboard our system. So stay tuned for more information on a security messaging campaign. And this is something we have to just keep putting out there periodically.
Yes, because I mean, this alone, I think will increase our ridership. If people feel safe, they'll ride.
Yeah.
And just a direct correlation. So I just want to make sure that we're really getting this out here because it's quite impressive. Any other comments on this? Yes.
With that, thank you, Chair Adams. With that, most of the cities all have their own cable sites. To produce possibly that passive communication or that passive commercial and literally pass it on to the cities and ask them to do it through, you know, because it's a vested interest in us if our ridership is higher. But there's no reason why the cities wouldn't want to, you know, produce, you know, if it's already produced, all you have to do is run it. So just an idea.
Give it to our PR guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Any other comments along these lines? Councilmember White.
I want to commend the results. I think a lot of times in our strategic plan and all the work that we do, we talk about how we want to cross the line, but we like to see the outcomes. And I want to commend the fact that there's been such a huge reduction in those types of incidents. I did want to go back because I noticed on one of the slides, it said like 131 fares recovered. Does that mean somebody gets stopped on the line, they're identified as somebody who didn't pay, and we say, go ahead and pay up right now, thank you very much? Is that what that means?
Yes, council member. So they are off-boarded from the system. They access a ticket vending machine or the mobile app or load a card if they already have a copper card, and they pay their fare and they continue on their journey.
Thank you so much for being present in those moments and making sure we can protect the integrity of our system as well. Great job.
Any other comments from the board? Yes.
Yes, I just want to thank you again for this security update. I think it's so critical that we do get the word out because this will build confidence, and we all agree that we'd like more ridership and this will help. And so I'm very excited to see this, and I can't wait to get the word out.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Yes. Councilmember Davis.
I actually got stopped by one of these security people to check my
You look suspicious.
Yeah, I look suspicious. Yeah, so it's really great. These statistics are staggering, so we really need to push them out. I'd say blast them all over social media, because that is the biggest complaint is the buses aren't safe, the light rail's not safe, there's a lot going on. There's definitely a security presence, so yeah, good work.
Thank you for sharing your story. Anyone else want to comment? Okay, go ahead, CEO.
Thank you for that feedback. We've made great progress. There's more to come. We're still just getting started. Just a quick look ahead to our next meetings. We will be back in September and October. We will, as we always do, work with Chair Adams and Chair Pastor to calendarize our board meetings. So should you have additional topics, there is time in each meeting to suggest future agenda items. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, next on the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, nope, I'm sorry, number 3, Audit and Finance Subcommittee update. That will be Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Chair Adams. Audit and Finance Subcommittee met on Thursday, August 7th. We received our CFO, Mr. Kessler's update at the end of fiscal year 25. We had total revenues for the fiscal year about $255 million, which was about 2.2% over prior year and 2% under budget. Thank you so much to Mr. Kessler and his entire team. We also received an update from Mike Kearns, budget supervisor. We reviewed the fourth quarter budget. One item of note for RPTA is the interest earnings have been coming in well above what was planned. That's the $255 million. For VMR, there's a high amount of preventative maintenance grant monies that have come in on the federal side. We still want to thank the Fed, Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, and their staff at the federal level for ensuring we're protected here. We received an audit update from our Chief Auditor, Ms. Beckstrom, and we also had time to review our fiscal year 2026 internal audit plan, and that was approved to kick off this next month in September. Ms. Beckstrom also spent time with us reviewing the IT change management audit. Our committee accepted it. 3 internal safety and security audits have been completed, and I'm happy to say that there were no findings or caps associated with those audits.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Oh, go ahead.
Just a heads up
Another
and
page?
reminder, no, we do a lot there, As a reminder, if any of the board members in the arena here or at home have any questions about intergovernmental agreements, contract change orders, amendments and awards, please reach out to Valley Metro staff to get more information. Our next AFS meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 4th at noon. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Sorry for rushing you out on that. Do we have any comments or questions about the audit?
I believe I said this during our AFS meeting, but I just want to commend those who are the stewards of investing the money for Valley Metro. We are earning interest, and that's in the millions, and so that's 100 millions actually. So thank you very much for that. I think being good stewards of the money, especially since MAG is going to be working very closely with us going forward, is very important to know that we are doing right in many aspects. So thank you very much to the entire finance team here, budget, finance, as well as audit, compliance. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Good work. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And, Councilmember White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull consent agenda item 4C and 4D.
Okay, 4C and 4D. All right, you'll remind me of that. 'Cause I can- all right, so let's go to minutes. 4A, minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Chair Adams?
Yes.
Be a motion to consider approval of 4A and 4B. as consent agenda items. We don't have to consider them separately.
Oh, okay.
Then when we get to 4C and 4D, those items will be, questions can be asked and answered during those and taken for separate consideration.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 4A and 4B.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Is there any discussion related to this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so 4B, you pulled that? 4C. Oh, 4C, okay, sorry, of course I don't have a pen in my hand. Sorry, my first day at this. 4C, Marketing and Advertising Support Services Contract Amendment. Councilmember White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I requested to pull this item. We spent some time speaking in detail and hearing from Hillary before, and I think it would behoove us to go through this information as our joint board. Thank you.
All right. Hillary, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Before you today, we have two items relative to our marketing and advertising contracts. The first item is to essentially extend contracts with 4 firms that have been on board with us over the last couple years. These contracts derive from the state cooperative, so the state cooperative extended these contracts within their group, and so we would like to extend as well through August of next year. Associated with that is a recommended contract authority increase of $955,000 to allow us to use these vendors to help us primarily with media buying. If this sounds reminiscent, it's because it came before you earlier this spring. We went back, regrouped, reassessed, and really took a hard look about how we need these vendors to support where we're going with marketing communications on behalf of Valley Metro and our cities. And so the number before you today to extend through the state cooperative through August of next year and the associated contract authority amendment is to focus these firms to help us in media buying specifically. Media buying being that everything you see in media, whether it's ads on TV, billboards, digital, what you see on Facebook and Spotify, all is bought. And these media buyers at these companies have a magnitude of order that they are buying that gives us the opportunity to leverage their rates, which would be better than any rates that we might have at Valley Metro. And so that's where we're going with these contracts and the item before you.
All right, Councilmember White.
Madam Chair, Hillary, I'm just taking a look here for, I guess, the request to increase the contract. So I'm on slide 4 of your full presentation. Really, we're bringing this contract total to $3,205,000. It's not a request to increase the budget. So kind of connect the dots there, let's say, for a layman who doesn't understand that listening to us today.
Yes, thank you. So we have money allocated in the budget already for the upcoming advertising campaigns of which we will use these firms to support our efforts. What's in front of you today is a contract action. We need to extend our contracts that are now available on the state cooperative and that associatedly increase the contract authority. So this is not a budget ask. This is a contract authority ask. We have the budget as part of the budget process that you guys have already approved for FY26.
Councilmember Pastor.
So am I hearing correctly that these contracts are in addition to?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Pastor, they are not in addition to, they are the 4 firms that we have been working with, and we'd like to continue working with them through August of next year. The second item on the consent agenda is a request for solicitation to go back out to the broader community to find vendors that fit the future scope. So there's 2 related actions in front of you today.
What you're asking here is just to increase the current contract with the dollars that you have.
Yes, correct.
So we voted on 710,000. I'm using a number. I'll just use a random number. We voted for $5 for company A, and that's the way the contract, that's what we voted on. You are now asking, we're going to increase that piece to $10 for Company A. We're just increasing the amount within that
Correct.
contract, that it's already in existence
Yes, correct.
with dollars that you already have.
In the budget, correct.
Okay.
When we're increasing this amount, are we able to ask for them to provide us different type of data sets? Because I feel like if we're paying more in this contract, some of that, what we'll discuss in our next item, I feel like we need some more comprehensive information if we're gonna pay some more money.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, Councilmember White, with each campaign, some of them, the previous campaigns were listed in the memo. The presentation contains some of the upcoming ones. Every campaign, much like community engagement plans, we identify goals, audience, and outcomes for each campaign. Bus ridership, as an example, has been active across this year. It was an advertising campaign to increase awareness of our bus system. And we are seeing, as you saw in the ridership, some positive dividends. We also identify measures. So common measures that ad agencies use and media buyers is impressions. That's a common measure. Click-through rates, meaning how often that ad, you probably do it yourselves, are clicked on. All of that is tracked. We are at or above average click-through rates on our campaigns. So they do really well. And then we're also leveraging other tools. We can, for some campaigns, depending on the goals and audience, is app downloads of our Valley Metro app, website clicks. Also, we have new tools available to us that help us track sentiment. What has been the perception and sentiment associated with these campaigns. And that's a new tool we're leveraging to understand how these campaigns are being received. And they're also how we adjust them moving forward. So we do identify very specific measures, and happy to share more of that with you all, depending on the campaign and what the campaign is trying to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think when we talk about the goals, the audience, the outcomes, we're also going to need to have consistent data set reporting. So I think for some of those things, we're going to want to make sure we set the bar on what our expectations are. Impressions to me are not a sufficient outcome. And if that's all you're going to get is kind of when a campaign runs and give me some impressions, that's not sufficient in the aspects of increasing this. So I think I move to accept agenda item 4C.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is 4D, Marketing and Advertising Support Services. Authorization to issue a complete solicitation. Do we have a presenter on that?
Sure, Madam Chair, members. As I mentioned, these two are tied together, that we're asking to continue with the firms we have on board today, but we do want to go back out to the broader community and issue a competitive solicitation to identify the marketing and advertising firms that will take us forward. So this is the recommendation in front of you is as we do with the RPTA board, a request to issue a competitive solicitation for these services moving forward.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor?
Can we have a
I'm sorry, but we need a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I wanted to pause here to make sure, Hillary, we might have had a little bit more comprehensive information in some of the board packet stuff that we went through, but this is where we really didn't see a couple of the campaigns and service solicitations that we had. We got the opportunity to kind of see those reactions, what it launched, but I guess what we didn't see is what was that direct increase in ridership? How many people did we contact based on those information? So I think we need more specific information consistently provided for each campaign so that we'll mirror each other, because we didn't get apples to apples information. It was kind of apples to orange. So we weren't filling in all the gaps and answering all the questions. And I don't see that slide that was presented here to the public, but I think it was on the public, it was in the packet information I originally received. So transparency is also very important. It has to be reported upon. What gets measured gets attended to. So we want to make sure we have that available and documented for us.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? So do you want to move this item to next month where you have more information? Are you
We
good?
can go with the vote.
Okay,
There's a motion
all
on the
right.
table.
There's a motion on the table. Okay, do I have a second? Okay.
You want the motion or?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. I would like to call for the vote now. Saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next on the agenda is item 5, federal legislation update. Please, this is only for information, or I mean, for information. And sorry, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I was on the lake at 6 a.m. All right, go ahead, number 5.
Madam Chair, members of the board. As you know, the Valley Metro Board of Directors annually adopts a federal public transportation legislative agenda, and staff works with our agency's legislative consultants, Cardinal Infrastructure, to provide a written update distributed to the boards monthly. While we didn't have a July cycle, there was action taken by congressional committees that may have varying levels of impact on Valley Metro's transit and capital programs. So I wanted to cover those items today, as well as touch on efforts taking place for the reauthorization of the Surface Transportation Act that will expire next September 2026. So on the House side, on July 14th, the House Appropriations Committee met and passed HR 4622. It's the House THUD, or Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill, on a party line vote of 35-28. The House version significantly cuts public transportation and passenger rail funding compared to fiscal 25 levels, the authorized levels in the IIJA, which is the Surface Transportation Act, or Infrastructure and Infrastructure and Jobs Act, IIJA. IIJA for short is much easier to say. The House bill cuts public transportation investment by $1.7 billion and passenger rail investments by $2.6 billion from fiscal 25 funding levels. The bill also cuts FTA's budget by roughly 8%. The bulk of the House cuts are to the Capital Investment Grants Program, or what we call SIG, which had its overall budget slashed in the House compared to fiscal 25. Valley Metro utilizes SIG, which is a discretionary and competitive grant program that helps fund large capital projects like light rail, streetcar, and future bus rapid transit projects. In the House bill, the FTA's formula programs are fully funded at $14.6 billion, which is an increase of $363 million from the last year's levels. Valley Metro receives a variety of federal formula funds to bus and paratransit purchases, right choice, travel training, congestion mitigation, and air quality programs such as Vanpool, and other preventative maintenance funding. These levels are set in the Surface Transportation Authorization Bills, IIJA, and are rarely changed by appropriators. Additionally, the bill sets aside about $96 million for transit-related community project funds, otherwise known as earmarks. Valley Metro successfully, through the help of Representative Ansari's office, secured $1 million for a program that would help staff train and equip outreach response teams. That was successfully included in this House bill, even though this House bill has a negative impact to transit. However, 10 days later, over on the Senate side, the Senate Committee on Appropriations met and approved Senate Bill 2465. This is the Senate's version of the THUD appropriation bill, with a bipartisan vote of 27-1. The Senate version increases public transportation investment by $203 million over the last year's funding. It also, together with advanced appropriations, provides $3.5 billion for the capital investments program, which is a $1.9 billion more than the House bill. The Senate THUD bill also significantly provides more funding for FTA than the House equivalent. The bill matches the House's formula funding programs and includes $2 billion for capital investment, or the SIG program, meeting President Trump's budget request. Overall, FTA spending in the Senate bill is about $200 million more than on the House bill. And due to inflation, this is effectively flat funding, but given the current fiscal environment in Congress, flat funding is a win for transit. The Senate Transportation Bill also included a new discretionary grant program for crime prevention at the largest transit agencies in the country. While this program specifically is reserved for 10 of the largest public transportation agencies with the highest ridership based on fiscal 24 levels, there is a broader effort to include a new formula program in the next Surface Transportation Authorization Act to provide all transit agencies, including Valley Metro, funding to help cover crime prevention outreach costs. The House and Senate versions await a full House and Senate vote when they return from their August recess. It is important to note that the House and Senate must pass the same bill, meaning that the differences between the House and the Senate funding levels will eventually need to be worked out. Typically, the Senate wins these types of budget battles due to their higher threshold for passage. That means they need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster, which requires bipartisan support. Because of this, we are hopeful that House Republicans will agree to advance a bill more in line with Senate spending levels. That being said, we don't expect Congress to finalize the 2026 appropriation process anytime soon. To date, just one of the 12 appropriations bills have passed both the House and the Senate. To avoid a shutdown, ultimately bipartisanship will have to be in place since the limited progress made on appropriation measures thus far will and no doubt require a passage of a continuing resolution before September 30th to keep the government open and funded. Additionally, later this year, House and Senate will also begin in earnest efforts to reauthorize the Surface Transportation Act for the next 5 years. The current authorization under IIJA will expire in September of 2026. Valley Metro continues to work with its federal lobbyists and the American Public Transportation Association, or as you know, APTA, on our funding and regulatory priorities for reauthorization, which includes stable funding sources through formula and discretionary programs, as well as securing a new program that I just mentioned with regard to operating costs for crime prevention and security personnel. We'd also like to see reforms to NEPA, as well as the SIG programs that would make our transit projects more efficient and more sustainable. APTA, if you're not too familiar with it, it's very similar to NLC. They will approve their recommendations specific for funding transportation or transit specifically recommendations this fall. We will also be putting together an advocacy toolkit for your use, particularly if you're attending NLC in November, which they have their, I believe it's called City Summit. And they also adopt their transportation priorities for the next year. Additionally, at Jessica's direction, we will be creating opportunities for the board to engage our congressional delegation throughout this next fiscal year relative not only to funding, but also looking at surface transportation priorities to include in the next round. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Davis.
Actually, I have a question about our lobbying firm. How often do we look at the contract and review outcomes and things along those lines?
I believe the last time we brought to the board the authorization to enter in a contract with Cardinal Infrastructure was in fiscal year 22. It was for a base year and extensions for up to 5 years. So this will come back to the board. I believe it's scheduled. I will probably have a memo and ready to go in August of next year, but I will double check those dates to make sure.
Okay, I'd like to see some of those outcomes sooner than that if possible.
Great,
okay,
will do.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Alexis. I appreciate the update. I'm just thinking here that it would probably behoove all of us to reach out to our local representatives. I know there was an occasion for Senator Gallego to be in Avondale recently, and I could just get in front of him and think, and I couldn't say many words, but I just said reauthorization of transportation, and he knew what I was thinking, and he said he remembered seeing me at APTA. So I think it's a full court press, whatever you could do in your own municipalities when you connect with your representatives. And when we see our senators, we got to keep singing the same song so they'll know we're on the same sheet music. So I just make that plea of my colleagues here on the board each and every time we see them. Once we get a new representative for CD7, I will be in front of them as well, singing the same song, because we got to make
One
one day.
day.
Yeah, one day. It'll happen after September 23rd out in our area, but it's important for us to make sure those people who represent us on Capitol Hill know that, and we do need to continue to get federal funds here through the federal transit. So we want to extend our appreciation at this point and hope the Senate can win that argument. Thank you.
We hope so too. And rest assured, we also, if your city employs federal lobbyists, some of you do, our federal team works with your federal lobbyists as well, so that we're all on the same sheet of music.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Do we have something for Plan B if things really go south? I guess that's kind of my question.
If I may, Alexis, so my hot take on federal process and THUD authorization right now. Truly, I think things look pretty good. That the House budget came in low. That's not surprising. We expected that. But note the president's budget and the Senate budget requests are much higher. Our federal lobbying effort truly is, as Alexis stated, a full court press right now for reauthorization and in some of the projects and programs, including policy reforms that are specific to us. Federal formula funds help us buy things, vehicles, support some of our service, support a state of good repair program. The capital investment grant has been the federal funding source, and we have been so very successful here in the Valley, attracting federal funds to build our light rail and streetcar programs. So we're continuing to lobby heavily there. So if the bottom fall out, what does that look like? Well, that means our capital program would change. We would have a harder time buying buses. We would have to fund any rail expansion locally. We don't want that. I don't see that happening. I want to convey a sense of optimism to this board, not casual, call us optimism. We are deeply engaged. We are having weekly conversations. We will share with this board, as Alexis mentioned, once we finalize that lobbying agenda. I'll be with the American Public Transit Association coming up here in a couple of weeks where we're going to finalize that agenda at the board level. And we will bring that back to this board with a toolkit so that you can reach out to your congressional delegation. And that is so very effective for them to hear from their local elected officials about our transportation funding priorities.
That's great news. Excellent. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll move on. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 6, strategic plan update, August 2025, strategic plan through and quarterly update. I don't know who this is.
I'll take that, Madam Chair. There's a report in your packet. I would be happy to answer any questions regarding our progress against the plan. I commend staff for their great work in our strategic plans. A short time that it's been in existence today. We've gotten a lot done and we're continuing to accomplish more every week.
Okay, do we have any questions? Comments? All right, we'll move on then to number 7, travel and expenditures.
Chair, that item is provided for information. If the board members have any questions, Ken Kessler is available to answer those questions. Other than that, it's provided for information and there's no action required.
Okay, are there any questions about travel? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 8, report on current events and suggest future agenda items. Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, fellow board members. I just wanted to share an update and celebrate that We Ride for the first time since we started in October 2022 in Avondale. We provided over 10,000 passenger trips in a single month.
Wow.
So I thank you so much for the support of Valley Metro. We are excited as this program continues to be a success in our neck of the woods. And I want to thank our transit manager who's here with us today, Matt Dudley, for all of his hard work. And Harold also back in Avondale for everything that they do to ensure that we can support the residents, small businesses, and those who need to get in and about in Avondale. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Good job. Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember McDonald.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to Pat and Jessica and team for being at the Arizona League of Cities and Towns Conference. It was a super fun night, but I think your presence there is super important in the manner that people are like, why are they here? And then they have to think. And then they say, we have a rep, literally one of my other council members said, do we have a rep? I'm like, yes, it's me. So that's why I'm here. We're having fun. But you guys were super fun. And I love the presence. And I think that just those little reminders are, like you said, that's an active one, but even passive ones are super important to keep you top of mind. And just because some people may not use transit does not mean, and with the ever-growing congestion and population, it's great to see you everywhere. So thank you for taking the time to be there, even though it was a lot of fun. Peggy and I had a blast, so there we go.
I concur. It was great. It was nice to have a booth there for you guys. So yes, question or comment?
Speaking of
Councilmember
speaking of the Arizona League of Cities conference, we had a Councilmember Gomez was awarded a 40-year award for service. He's been on the council 1 year longer than I've been alive. It's true. But we did.
Sounds like a problem for you.
Yeah, we did some math, and we have over 100 years of service on our dais. So I think that's a pretty amazing stat coming out of Tolleson. So
Yeah, it is.
well over 100, just with 4 council members, it's 100 years. So the rest of us, we add up to something else. I don't know.
Jimmy will eventually make it to 100 years.
I'll be dead by then, I'm sure.
I had a feeling you might say that.
Don't rule out it though.
Any.
You might not.
He might still be up there. Okay, do we have any other reports on current events? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next board meeting. This will come to an end. There we go. Okay. All right. The first item on this agenda is the consent agenda, which is presented for approval. Does the committee have any questions, or are there any items that need to be pulled for separate discussion? I request a motion and second to approve consent agenda item A1A through 1E, although I'm seeing a hand up. Councilmember White.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Councilmember White. Number 2 on our agenda is demand response scheduling software contract award. Jessica is to present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, I will ask Tom White, our Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Operations, to talk with you about what demand response scheduling software means for our riders and our operation. Tom, please.
Thank you, Jessica. Chair Adams, members of the board, as Jessica mentioned, this item is a recommendation of award of a contract for new demand response software. Specifically, the demand response software or the demand response programs we actually operate here at Valley Metro is our ADA paratransit program, our ride choice program, our route deviated service, which is actually our rural route 685. And then we're building to take on microtransit here in the near future. So if we go back several years ago, the board actually approved the implementation of a joint administrative contract to manage all of Valley Metro's demand response services. The current demand response software that we use was not capable of actually adding the additional demand response beyond our ADA service. So today we continue to operate the program separately and basically duplicative operations. The new software that we're proposing, it will allow us to actually pull the joint program together, consolidate the administrative functions of all of the demand response services, and also help us educate customers between what's the best service for them to use on the trip. So it's a goal that we've been working towards for almost 3 years now, and the new software will allow us to do this. In addition to managing all the demand response programs under the same platform, it's also going to bring the ability for customers to make their reservations without having to make a phone call, whether it be voice activated, whether it be through a mobile app or online. They can make all their reservations, check their trip schedules, cancel them. And in addition, it will allow for electronic fare payment so that our customers don't have to have cash. That's an item that we tried to implement under our current software once again, and it wasn't capable of doing it. So after reviewing 7 proposals, we're recommending the board authorize the chief executive officer to execute a contract with Rideco USA Incorporated for a total of 5 years at $2,143,831. I can answer any questions.
Does the board have any questions? Yes, Councilmember White.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this presentation. I would like to publicly say I believe Rideco is our vendor for ReRide. I can't talk enough about it, can I? No. But I will make a commentary, good or bad. I think there's an opportunity. We heard from one of the public comments today that in the pre-COVID environment, they were able to get picked up at their home. And now that's no longer an availability. I don't think this will interrupt our movement of this item on the agenda. However, having had an experience as somebody who may go from using mobility devices to not having to, I think all of you have seen me on a walker with a cane in the past. We do want to make sure we can get our vendor to go as close to wherever that person's physical location may be. So hopefully by taking on Rideco, they will be able to have more access to apps, and Rideco will see where that individual is because they requested the ride, and maybe that rider will be able to download their specific location, maybe giving location access, which is something each of us as individual smartphone users have to do on our own, but be able to get to the people where they physically are. I think that's the only opportunity I've ever had with Rideco is missing a ride because I could not get to the spot where they were and they don't go to the spot where I was. So that's a real world problem, but other than that, excellent agency.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Comments? No, seeing none. All right, we'll go ahead and move to number 3 then.
I believe this requires a motion, so I'll move
good.
that
It does.
we authorize the CEO to enter into a contract with Rideco USA for demand response scheduling software with a 1-year initial term and for 1-year options to extend. The aggregate value will not exceed $2,143,831.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, paratransit vehicle replacements contract award. Jessica to present.
Yeah, thank you. I want to invite Greg Thompson, Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Maintenance, to the podium. So here we are talking about how we put some of those federal formula dollars to work to make transit more accessible. Great.
Thank you, Jessica. Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon now. Today, I'm asking that the board authorize the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a contract with Model 1 Commercial Vehicles for the purchase of 26 cutaway paratransit style vehicles for amount not to exceed $4,023,996. The overall purchase of 26 vehicles includes 21 for the paratransit ADA service, 20 being like-for-like vehicle replacements. One of the vehicles, an additional single vehicle replaces one that was taken out of service a while ago due to an accident. And then there are 5 buses that are very similar in size and shape that will replace 5 rural Route 685 vehicles. They're very similar. The rural Route 685 vehicles are a slightly larger wheelbase. They will come equipped with bike racks and electronic destination signs, and because of the size, 1 extra seat. We had to get the vehicles a little bit larger because the smaller ones with the collision avoidance systems do not allow for the fitment of a bike rack. So that's really the difference in those, and then there's a price difference. All vehicles being replaced, they have all exceeded the FTA recommended minimum useful life of 150,000 miles or 5 years. And regular replacement of revenue vehicles aligns with the agency's strategic plan by delivering excellent customer experiences and by increasing the fleet's reliability and safety, and supports goal 8 of operational excellence. Regular vehicle replacement also aligns with the agency's long-term fleet replacement plan that builds consistency in financial future planning. The cost of the vehicles are outlined in Table 1 and Table 2 in your board memo packets. Table 1 reflects the vehicle type funded about 85% by federal funds and the remaining 15% funded with the local PTF funds. And then Table 2 reflects that one singular vehicle that was replaced due to an accident with the proceeds of the subrogation funds, and then the remaining difference of $105,253 coming from PTF. We've also included a 4% contingency in that to cover any volatility in the market or increase in cost and goods. The vehicles will be procured through the Arizona State Procurement Office, and they meet all regulatory terms and conditions. Staff recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to begin the solicitation process for 26 paratransit style cutaway buses for an amount not to exceed $4,023,996. And I will take any questions.
Are there any questions from the committee? Yes, Councilmember White.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I have 3 questions. The number you're saying is different than the number on the screen.
Yes, it is.
It is, and I apologize for that. We actually restated our contingency. We went from 5% to 4% because we're closer to the bus purchase. So my apologies, that was a typo.
Okay, because that was the second question. Thank you. In the packet, we have a 5% contingency. You said we took that down to 4% now.
Right, which makes, yes, perfect. It makes up that difference.
And then you referred to the FTA's standard of 5 years, 150,000 miles for vehicle usage. Because I'm unaware, why is that the standard? Do you know kind of the ethic behind that standard and how we get there? And are we out of that space on the vehicles on the road right now?
Yes, well, for a couple things. So the Federal Transit Administration, that's since we're using their money, they set the regulations for how long you keep a bus. And people oftentimes conflate the useful life as it hits that mark and now it's done. It's actually the minimum useful life. So that's the guidance that they have of they say 5 years or 150,000 miles it should hit one of those milestones before you consider replacement. Now, they also set useful life benchmarks, which we have started working on internally, setting our own useful life benchmarks in all of our fleets that exceeds that requirement, because a 5-year-old bus still has life if it has proper maintenance and all of the things that go with that. So we're saying right now that all of the buses have met the minimum useful life and have exceeded it by mileage and years.
Do you have any other questions? Do you have any questions, Councilmember White? It's current in my packet. Okay. What is the life expectancy for a bus, just out of curiosity?
Depends on the type.
Okay.
Every single vehicle that we purchase, whether we're using PTF funds or federal funds, we're still applying kind of the federal guidelines to that. A large fixed route bus, for example, is 12 years, 500,000 miles is the minimum. We set our internal life benchmark and we started establishing it by years. So we're now moving towards 14 years on those. We have other buses that based on, it's called Altoona testing. So they take a bus and they produce it, they send it off and they rigorously test it to see if it'll at least make that useful life, and that kind of sets that initial benchmark. We have some buses that are 10-year, 350,000 mile buses. We have some buses that are 7-year, 200,000 miles. And then we have all the way down to smaller sedans, which are 4-year, 100,000 miles. So depending on the classification of vehicle, different minimum useful lives apply.
So the big ones are like 12 years, you said.
12 years, 500,000 minimum.
Okay, that's very impressive.
May we have the number again? I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. The 4 million, give us the right number again.
Sure, I'm sorry, $4,023,996.
Madam Chair, I move.
I'm sorry. One
I have a
more-
question.
Councilmember Heredia has had his hand up online.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Chair. Real quick, what's the makeup of our current fleet of for cutaways for paratransit?
Thank you for that question. Right now, we have in the total fleet, we have 103 vehicles. We have 25 vans that we're currently piloting for the size and the right fit for that fleet.
Any other
Mr.
questions?
Thompson, can you elaborate? Are those the Chrysler Pacifica framework?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
thank you for sharing that.
But is the cutaways the majority of our fleet? Are these the large cutaway vans that I understand?
Yeah, I mean, they are cutaway chassis on body there. We're purchasing Ford Transits, which are a little bit different than the standard, what you would normally think of the large body on chassis cutaways of the Star Trans, the Star Crafts and the Eldorados. So these are a little bit smaller. So they would be in between the size of a passenger van and a full-size cutaway.
Okay, my question, did we look at data on, I understand the need to make sure the accessibility for mobile devices, right, for our residents, ensuring that we have vehicles, but is there data that we have on how many or what's the percentage of individuals that need that type of service, that need these large vehicles? I understand in Mesa, for instance, it's about 20% of our paratransit trips that need a vehicle that can take a large wheelchair, right? And so do we have data that backs up that we need so many of these cutaway vehicles?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Heredia, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask Tom Young to answer questions regarding our customer composition, because you are spot on that the majority of our paratransit customers do not use mobility devices. So Tom, do you want to address that? And then Tom or Greg, it would be helpful to address the average maximum load. So the number of customers that we have on board a vehicle at any given time, which is a big driver of vehicle size.
Yes, thank you, Jessica, for that. Council member, currently we have 31% of our users that use mobility devices. If you look at, that's primarily just wheelchairs as mobility devices. You look at walkers and other assistive devices, it goes up to about 37% of individuals that need to use the lift to get on the vehicle. As far as oversized devices right now, that is giving us a challenge on the smaller vehicles, about 41% of that 31% of users are oversized devices. The second piece is looking at the fact that a shared ride system, that we're not just transporting individuals that use assistive devices one-on-one at this point. We average typically 2 to 3 additional individuals in a vehicle at a time. Sometimes, or the majority of the time, individuals are traveling with a personal care attendant. So one trip is 2 individuals, but we also group additional trips. One of the pieces of data that we've been tracking since we've implemented the smaller Pacificas into the fleet is the amount of times that the mobility devices do not fit or the capacity is over the capacity, and the amount of dead miles that we have to use to get a cutaway into place at this point. So we're still collecting data on that to ensure that we have the proper mix of cutaway vehicles and the minivans available.
Perfect. Yeah, that's my question only, just to make sure we balance the need, these vehicles are very costly, right? And so, and we heard, the need to improve timeliness of service. And so if we look at the balance of, having more vehicles maybe available, at lower costs that still fulfills a need for the majority of our residents, still having vehicles that support mobility devices, of course, right? But having a balance of moving forward, of what we can efficiently look at cost and number of vehicles in the system to improve service, right? That's my point for these questions, just to keep on looking at these vehicles, and what our residents are asking for trips, what that data suggests, right? Of how right sizing our fleet for paratransit.
Thank you very much. It's impressive how many people have assisted devices that ride the buses. I think that's something that we really should promote, because it's like we're helping a lot of people, get to work and wherever they need to go, in spite of having some physical challenges. So thank you. Thank you for your, do we have?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
At the risk of losing our quorum, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 3 as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Number 4, do any members have any reports or current events of, are there any agenda items for future meetings? So do any members have any reports or current events? Okay. Seeing none, our next meeting will be Thursday, September 18th, 2025 at 11:15 a.m. Max White will be chairing that meeting, as I'll be at a wedding. Thank you. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all. We will take a 3-minute break to switch over to the Valley Metro Rail Board meeting and get everybody a chance to get their parking validated and all of
Thanks,
that.
everybody.
We
Thanks
got
for,
just 3
thanks
minutes.
for coming. Yeah.
Good job.
Oh,
No worries, no worries.
God, it's been a while.
You got it.
Oh, no,
I'm doing great. I'm rusty. I'm a little rusty. Well, that's all right. I don't mind, Rowdy.
We are a rowdy bunch.
I know it.
We leave this here, do one thing at a time or so.
Doing good? Do you need anything?
No, I think in the future though, I want to have like this, like right behind, this, I could just like be like,
Okay.
reach it easily. So, no, but everything's doing great. This is, Quincy, she's my council agent, council member. Or the one and only famous one. Yes. So Quincy's doing a good job. My council agent. Brooke is no longer with us. I'm happy about that. So that's how that works.
Quincy's happy about that, or you're
happy?
Oh, we're both happy
happy
about that. I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like, huh?
What day is you?
That's such a realistic way to look at it.
She will.
We're seeing this generation.
At all,
can't do it.
like she takes out of town. And then she's
They
like,
can't do it without help.
The video? She wasn't.
Yeah. We gotta see some more of them.
I'm drinking my water. Yes.
I'm leaving all the paperwork here.
Okay, good to see you. Good to see you, Max. See you soon.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, I could believe it.
I am actually going to do some advocacy work with the Congressional Black Caucus, so I will be there in September, but it'll be after our board meeting. So I'll be in DC after our board meeting, so
Okay.
hopefully we'll have a congressional representative then, and I'll take whatever notes from our next meeting, and I'll take them to DC as well.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be, where will I be?
We don't have a representative right now. We don't have a CD7 rep. We don't have a congressional representative.
Okay.
Our election is still in progress.
Got it.
I just got my ballot in the mail right now.
Got it.
Rahava died.
Oh, that's
you
right.
need- Okay.
Ugh.
You need Adelita. Okay.
Central. There's two stations. It's Thomason Central. Thank you. Smile, Pat. It's my point of interest. Okay. So what I want to talk about before we move it through consent is, this is a point of interest. Creighton University has been an anchor in the revitalization of the Park Central Mall. This was a significant priority to me and my fellow council members. In fact, council voted and the development agreement that provided a significant investment in this project, which brought out ownership of the parking garage to Park Central. It's a partnership with the city. Creighton University is counting to grow as part of our robust bioscience and healthcare initiatives, and they are partnering with our major healthcare institutions in Phoenix. They have 26 healthcare programs and more than 700 students who attend this university. Creighton continues to help Phoenix push its message nationally, and we are recognizing them. Item 1C is recognizing them at the station as a point of interest. So, do I have any questions, any comments?
I just have a comment. Creighton University is from Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm originally from Nebraska, and they have a stellar reputation. They have for many decades, and I am in strong support of Creighton University.
Thank you. Thank you. I need a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, ayes take it. Item number 2 is program management, construction management contract award.
Madam Chair, I'm going to invite Trevor Collins to the podium, our Chief of Capital Development, to talk with you about the program management, construction management contract. Couple of items to note. This contract would replace the current PMCM, as we call it, contract, which is set to expire in December 31st of this year. This is a task order-based contract. So that means today this board is approving the contract authority, not the budget or task. That the budget or task would be associated with future capital projects. So the spend would come separately. Mr. Collin.
Doesn't sound like it.
I want to make sure. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, I think we're working on getting the slides pulled up, but I'll in the interest of time, I'll give you a summary here as we work on that. The program management, construction management contract supports. These are consultant services that support in our delivery, the management, the oversight. It helps us stay compliant with Buy America requirements, Department of Labor, all kinds of requirements that we see, particularly on our rail extension projects. This is an augmentation to our staff. So services such as resident engineers and office engineers, sometimes project managers, those are embedded during the life and course of a project. As Jessica mentioned, our current contract with Hill International comes to an end at the end of this calendar year. And so this is a new contract that will go into effect once it's awarded, and will primarily support the capital extension and the Rio East Dobson extension, but also other initiatives as they come up. It's a very flexible contract. We issue task orders annually, and it's based on the needs at that time. It is a 5-year term base. Oh, we've got it up there. So this is just a list of some of the services that we use this contract for. And those are the two, what we see in the regional transportation plan really is the two larger efforts that this contract would support. A little bit of information here on the procurement. We had 3 responsive firms, and they are listed in the order based on the scoring of where we landed. With that, with the highest ranking firm being Infinex LLC as the recommendation before you. Yep, I apologize. There it is. And with that, Madam Chair, the full recommendation is there before you.
Are there any questions? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
In the motion and the second, we follow the recommendations that have been given. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is that opposed? I don't hear any opposed. The ayes carry. Item number 3, that's the crime prevention through environmental design. This is for information only. Staff will present the study.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Valley Metro Rail Board. We have been working for some months on a crime prevention through environmental design study. This is something we have been talking about for some time. It is part of our strategic plan and one of our many layers in our overall system security approach. I invite Adrian Ruiz, our Chief of Safety and Security, and Matthew Demick, our Project Manager from STV, to provide you with a presentation. Adrian, Matt?
Thank you, Jessica. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm going to kick off this very brief presentation on our system assessment. And while we're getting that up real quick, this ties directly back to our strategic plan of prioritizing security on transit, but this also includes the built environment, what people see, touch, feel. So we're approaching 17 years. Next slide, please. We're approaching 17 years of service and are positioned to line up and assess our system under the umbrella of crime prevention through environmental design. We want to look at for areas we can improve and enhance our infrastructure and assets. Next slide, please. Convenient, clean, safe, and secure, free from hazards and threats. That is what our riders look for when riding our system. This includes the perception of security, what makes them feel secure, and we also want to know what's working. We need to modernize and bring into those best practices as we age and respond to those concerns and perceptions from the ridership. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Matthew, who will present a few slides regarding our system and some key takeaways. We will then discuss next steps. Matthew?
Thank you, Adrian. So we're going to go through a few different things here today. We're going to talk about project scope and some of the findings from the overall project. But first, we want to just level set on what crime prevention through environmental design is and how it falls into the overall process for security. What you see in front of you is that process for a holistic security approach. We look at deterrence, detection, delay, assess, communicate, and respond. Crime prevention through environmental design focuses primarily on the first 3 elements of that, where we would deter activity, we would help detect it through things like natural surveillance, which we'll talk about, and then we'll also delay that activity long enough for a sufficient response to occur. This process included a lot of different steps and a lot of engagement with our stakeholders. We did that through a series of workshops. The workshops included an introduction to crime prevention through environmental design, where we walked through what some of the main principles of this practice are, identified Valley Metro's definition for the practice, moved through for the vision of the program in the future and how it fits into Valley Metro's overall plans. Additional workshops included discussing existing condition findings and recommendations prior to actually implementing any reporting. As part of those processes, we also conducted individual interviews with some of the folks that you see up here, including security staff, city representatives, and others. Also, as part of this assessment, we visited 128 Valley Metro facilities. You'll see a sampling of the facilities listed up here on your screen. Essentially, we visited every public-facing Valley Metro facility, as well as some of the major infrastructure that supports the operation that is in public space. We did that during the daytime and during the nighttime so that we can actually compare the differences in the facilities between those different operating times of the day to see what the environments were presenting from a crime prevention standpoint. The things that we were looking at are listed here. I won't go into every single one of them here because we are going to be discussing them as we go through the process, but we did cover natural surveillance, natural access control, territorial reinforcement. Those two kind of work together, particularly in an environment like Valley Metro's environment. Maintenance, target hardening, and then we touched on public art primarily in the reports. I'm not going to get into it too heavily here because it's not as important as some of the other elements, and we do have some limited time. For observations and considerations, first thing that I wanted to start with was one of the, I guess, the most important, or maybe not most important, but one of the principal elements of crime prevention through environmental design, which is natural surveillance. The general concept behind natural surveillance is that we want to keep the site open to public view
so that we can, basically when people are doing behaviors that they don't really want other people to know that they're doing, being visible is a challenge for them. And so what we try to do is build things into the design of the site that supports that visibility. So you'll see here SEPTED fencing and railings, which we'll be talking about throughout the presentation. And one of the critical elements is the 2 foot, 7 foot rule. We use 2 foot, 7 foot because if you look at most adult human beings, they are going to fall somewhere between 2 feet and 7 feet. And if we can keep that area of visibility open for them, they feel more comfortable using a space. In addition to feeling more comfortable, they are more, they are able to get better situational awareness as they actually traverse a space. So natural surveillance, we'll start discussing this one. First thing that I wanted to do is raise some positive elements that we saw throughout the assessment. A lot of times consultants come in and all they do is point out the bad things. Fortunately, I had the opportunity as we worked with Valley Metro to see a lot of positives. My favorite positive personally was the development of crime prevention through environmental design over the course of building out the system. So for each iteration of the system, from the original line all the way through Northwest Extension 2, which was the last one that we looked at, you could see that there were crime prevention through environmental design concepts that were built and improved throughout each of those design projects. So that was great. Some of the other stuff that we saw was that your vegetation management is really good, which is extremely difficult in a lot of cases, believe it or not. One of the more regular findings that we have, but we didn't have that a lot here. There were also things like clear lines of sight for your park and rides, and your station designs were extremely open, accessible, and very easy to see from the surrounding community, which are all benefits from a natural surveillance standpoint. As I say, as consultants, we are brought in to find some things that are wrong, and of course we did. But as we go through the slide here, you'll see that each one of those things have either been improved or you have areas where the issue exists, and then you have areas where you've implemented where the issue does not exist. And so I just want to point out a couple of them. So knee walls and planters and walls that are concrete or solid in some form are very difficult to see behind. Our preference in those types of areas is to go to SEPTED railings or SEPTED fencing where possible, because that gives you that visibility between the 2 foot, 7 foot area. The bottom left of the slide here is the last one that I'll really get into. Just for time's sake, which of those two pictures would you feel more comfortable approaching? And most of you are probably thinking right now that the picture on the right is the ideal to approach. The reason being is because there is vegetation or bushes blocking the view, and because the ticket vending machine that's there is also canted into the pathway. And so you can't see one side of the platform as you're walking up the entry ramp. The one on the right, where you could see both sides of the platform as you're approaching, is an area that, or is a view that gives you much more situational awareness and a much more comfortable approach to the station. Some of the other items here are included in our recommendations matrix, and they include removing some of the vines and replacing them with stuff that might be a little bit easier to maintain, as well as provide a little bit better visibility for the stations.
So I would like to make a comment on that.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could go back to that slide. I think it looks very cold. And I think when we were building the line, it was about, maybe we shouldn't have, but it was about inviting, making it feel part of the community, embedding it. So I don't have a problem in improving it, but I have a problem in it looking like it's cold. So that's just my comment.
I'll add to that. When I looked at the one on the left and the one on the right, I'm like, the left one looks pretty.
Well,
So can we have a little bit of both, like safety and some colors?
I mean, I think because and this is just me, because we're from Arizona, we need to add and build color. Because I know you said the one on the left side bottom, which one would you be appealed to? I appeal to the left.
Me too.
And I appeal to the left because there's color. Because we live in a desert
I like to see color. So when I go to another city, like say Kansas City that I was there, I was in love because there was green. I'm so used to desert, and I didn't realize the difference that color does until I traveled, until I go to another area where I feel very different. We can't change our environment of heat. We can't change our environment that we're in desert, but we can add that vibrancy and color to our platforms, I guess is what I'm saying. So, with safety.
So we can, and there are a number of standards. Matt, do you want to talk about some of the different standards we have talked about for vegetation, everything from the sight lines to the specific species?
Yeah, so as part of this assessment, we did have a landscape architect that was involved. And that landscape architect looked at particular types of vegetation that would work well in this environment, but would also still fulfill the 2-foot, 6-foot rule. I agree that color is extremely important in just about anything that we did. Part of the selection of 25th and Mountain as the example for maybe something different is because it was one area where color, green, as well as public art, the dog playing in the field there with the flowers, plus the large flowers coming up from that extension, all draw the eye and draw the community towards that particular station. We're not saying, obviously, that you can't have color because there's a lot of benefits to the colors that you choose. What we're generally saying here is that if something is going to block the line of sight from a security perspective primarily, which is where we were looking at it, that could be a challenge. And it's a trade-off. And so we have to decide which area we're going to go with.
Okay, so the bottom right,
Yes, ma'am.
what would you do with that pole?
So it
Make it-
wouldn't necessarily be up to me, but what I would say is that something along those lines, you may be able to do a smaller piece of public art around it, change the color, do some different paints on one side versus the other. That would have to be weighed, of course, against maintenance requirements and how.
Yeah,
often
I'm just asking,
But
I'm just saying,
beautify it.
yes,
Absolutely.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes,
Thank you for the time.
and beauty, making a space that people want to be at is incredibly important from a crime prevention through environmental design standpoint. Yes, ma'am. So natural access control and territorial reinforcement. Again, I combined these two items. It'll make more sense why I did on the following two slides. But generally, this designates Valley Metro ownership, provides clear entrances, and it also helps guide people through the site regarding just position, entries, et cetera. So the positive elements for crime prevention through environmental design at your stations for natural access control and territorial reinforcement. One of the things that I found was really great about what was done is that I'm going to go to the last bullet first. So controlled space in a lot of places we have subterranean transit where it's very easy to put a foyer, to put a turnstile, to separate public space from semi-private space or from the actual private or more controlled space. As a street running system, Valley Metro does not have that capability. Just by design, that your system is very open. But what you were able to do is actually provide territoriality for the stations by doing things like the paid fare zone markers. So as soon as you cross that paid fare zone, you know that you're now in Valley Metro controlled space. The signage at all of the stations was extremely clear. So you knew what the behavioral expectations were when you got there, what you can do and what you can't do. Everything was easily identifiable as Valley Metro property. I talked about briefly the role that public art plays in that, but if you stand outside of many of your stations, you have art pieces that draw your eye to it, that tie it between the community as well as Valley Metro and its property. All of those things were done extremely well in many of these designs from a natural access control and territorial reinforcement standpoint. One of the areas that we identified that was definitely in need of some work are and these are a few stations where there's a single point of entry to the station, but it was built because of the kit of parts, because of the original design, with a second ramp. That second ramp goes to an area of refuge that's used for a second exit in an emergency situation. Controlling that particular ramp has been a challenge over time. And so one of the things that we are recommending is that we identify a gate that can be very easily marked, but can also withstand some of the damage, rough handling, so on and so forth with something that's out in the public, to allow better control of those areas of refuge until either that secondary ramp is open for actual use or until it's no longer needed. Next piece of natural access control, I'm going to talk a little bit about wayfinding briefly. You see two different examples here. The first is at Apache and McClintock, sorry. At Apache and McClintock, and I'm using this one as an example because it's currently undergoing redevelopment, so they are currently working on it. You'll notice that it's very difficult to determine that this is a park and ride. Actually, it looks more like the parking for the nearby apartment building than anything else. When you approach, it's very difficult to find your way not only into the parking, but once you get into the parking, it's difficult to find your way around. We compare this to the latest parking for Metro Park or Metro Parkway, sorry. And there you have a very clear indicator that it's a park and ride for the Valley Metro system. The only other thing that we would recommend is if you go to an airport or you go to a mall or you go to a place like this, you'll see signs that indicate where parking might be located. It may be a zone, it may be an X or a Y, it may be something that's colored so that it draws people's attention to this is the area that I'm parked. The reason that we like that type of wayfinding in places like park and rides is because the time that we can reduce from you getting off the light rail vehicle to actually getting into your car and moving is reducing the amount of time that you might have a potential encounter that you wouldn't necessarily want to have. And so helping people find their vehicles faster is a way that you can give them a better sense of comfort, because I don't know how many have actually walked to an area, couldn't remember where your car was, and you're walking around pushing on the button. And it's a pretty uncomfortable feeling, right? And so wayfinding definitely helps with that. And that's one thing that we would want to encourage for any new park and rides, and to look at the existing park and rides. Maintenance. So overall, and looking at this also from the lens of having visited many other transit agencies, your overall system maintenance is outstanding. You guys do a very good job. Everything was clean. We already talked about the maintenance of the vegetation. We ran into cleaners on a regular basis while we were moving through the system. We did use the system to go from place to place. And so all of those things were a net positive as far as maintenance goes. There were some things that we definitely ran across in our discussions with the maintenance crew, as well as from our field observations. We could see that the smaller pavers that are used, particularly in some of the older parts of the system, are very difficult to keep clean, not stained, very difficult to maintain. In an effort to maintain some of the walking surfaces, some power washers were purchased. When you're power washing these types of pavers, there's a possibility that you actually disrupt the substrate, which then results in trip and fall hazards. And so they're trying to balance those trip and fall hazards. And so either replacing those or finding another way to surface those particular areas may be something beneficial. At very least, adopt that for the design criteria manual going forward so that your walking surfaces are a little bit easier to maintain. The last piece for this slide is the visibility of the cleaning staff. And the best example that I can give for this is the Tokyo subway system. When you actually go to get on the Tokyo subway system, you can see cleaners waiting for the trains to come in. As the trains come into the station, they step onto the vehicles, they clean the vehicles, they do it in a very visible out front type of sense. They wipe off seats, they spray deodorizers, they do all of these things to make the site more comfortable. Does it have a huge impact? Not necessarily, but from a public perception standpoint and from a presence standpoint, and anytime you can bring presence to a particular area, that's a benefit. So more visible cleaning or visibility of cleaning staff would be excellent. Here is a point about station advertising. If we look to the item on the left, We have a very clear line of sight, even though there's public art there. I could see if there's somebody behind the seating. I could see if somebody's walking behind that particular station. By placing an advertising banner behind that, I actually take that ability to see through away. The general recommendation behind this is that if we're going to be doing station advertising, try to use blank spaces as much as possible so that you disrupt as little of the visibility for the stations as practical, while still having all of your other considerations for the purposes of the advertising. Lighting is extremely important, and I want to commend Valley Metro for the LED lighting project that they're currently undergoing. LED is the preferred lighting from a security standpoint. There's many reasons for that, from just the clarity of the color for the lighting, its performance with CCTV systems or video surveillance systems, et cetera. You'll notice on here, on the images, there's several dark places on these first images. That's lighting uniformity that we were looking for. Transition zones make it very uncomfortable for people to pass through. And so improving those lighting transitions is one thing that we recommended in the report. Another thing that was recommended in the report was to increase maintenance checks or develop a way for customers or others to report maintenance issues relating to lights, because we did come across fixtures that were either malfunctioning from an LED driver standpoint, meaning they were flashing, or that the lights just weren't working. And so getting those reported, getting them fixed corrects the overall lighting for the stations. Yes, ma'am.
Is there signage for a rider, or do we have signage to report that lights are off? Like on our, I'm thinking on our poles, there's a sign on our poles that you can call and say this light is out.
Thank you for that question. We do not have it on the poles themselves. However, we really encourage folks to download the AlertVM app, because there is a maintenance task in their dropdown that folks can report maintenance issues to us directly. And a OCS customer service person answers that right away.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of those that are anti-apps, because I don't want all these apps on my.
We also have a text SMS.
That's what I'm
version.
saying. Is there something physically there to say, download the app or call this number? I'm just saying, if you want people to report.
I think we could report that, promote that more, because we have signage dedicating people to AlertVM for security, but I'm not sure if customers have the awareness that you can leverage AlertVM for reporting maintenance defects. So I think we could look at that in our I know that we could look at that in our communication.
I'm just saying, if you want people to communicate, this light is out. Other than having people going out and inspecting, you have other eyes saying,
Agreed.
it's really dark right here. Can you look at this?
Agreed. And one of the things that we're going to discuss in just a moment is some of the security advertisements that are out there. And so we'll go ahead and move forward to that so that we have, so that we can cover that particular space. The last bullet is highlight safety and security messaging. So when we actually went to the light rail vehicles and kind of were walking through all the light rail vehicles to get an understanding, there is a lot of advertisement about the safety and security app, how to use it, how to report incidents, so on and so forth. The one thing that we're encouraging in this particular space is that we increase that type of reporting, make it a little bit more public. Valley Metro is doing a ton of excellent things from a security standpoint. And as you were talking about in the previous session, we think that more people should know about all the things that you're doing from a security standpoint. The other item that is covered here is vehicle wraps and onboard advertising. The main thing that we want to do here is we want to make sure that you ensure maximum visibility while you're alighting the vehicles. You want to be able to see where you're heading, and then limit blind spots where possible. So if we have blank areas within the vehicles, do advertisement on those more than in some areas where you might be blocking somebody's field of view. Next piece is the emergency call boxes. Valley Metro has a lot of emergency call boxes by comparison to some of the places that I've visited in the past. Most of the places that we visited had at least one emergency call box, so we're not calling you out for not having them here. What we're saying is that the typical person in the United States might have trouble getting to one if it's more than 200 feet away, if they were in an emergency, particularly if they have certain impairments, that would make it even more difficult. Having them only on one side of a station, if the individual that you're trying to report or having a problem with is between you and the emergency call box that's on the other side of the platform, that might cause some complications. And so we're saying consider placing more to keep them about 200 feet apart where you can. Some of the other features that are here, the highly visible colors, so paint them yellow, blue, orange, whatever's going to work for your environment, so that they stand out from the superstructure. If you look at the one here, it's the same color as the superstructure, so it might be a little bit difficult to know that it's there. And then add other things such as signage so that you know where the emergency call boxes are, draw attention to them. Last piece for this, if you remember in the beginning of the presentation, I said we have to deter, detect, delay, assess, communicate, and respond. In order to do those last three elements, okay, so assess, communicate, and respond, I need to be able to actually see what's going on at the emergency call box when that happens. And that's the importance of integrated video surveillance. And that's kind of where we're going to head with the next steps. And for that, I'm going to turn it back over to Adrian.
So that, we have a quick question. Yeah, just a quick question. So that'd be like the real time in each city that would interact or interface with this. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. Are you referring to the cameras and the systems for the real time? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
In the cities, but also more visibility from Valley Metro's Dispatch Control Center.
Okay, I just think that's something that to really emphasize that if you are behaving badly, you're going to be on camera and the police will be there shortly.
Absolutely. So in conclusion, so we've been listening to our ridership and we know the benefit of CPTED principles on our system. We're working now to modernize our CCTV system, software and hardware. We brought the Plaza 19 into improved condition as today with improved target hardening, but also more importantly, ownership. So having the community own the property, own the activities there shows there's someone that cares about it and it is owned. We know the original paper design, as Matthew mentioned, needs attention. So we're working on that as well. And Matthew recognized the continued excellence in our maintenance program. FY26 tasks include taking these best practices and also ensuring we update our design criteria manual. As Matthew mentioned, over the years with every project, we've improved going along and we make sure we update that design criteria as we go with our extension of our projects. So prioritizing those findings and recommendations into thoughtful discussion and best practices. The video surveillance system improvements are underway now. The task order was implemented already, and actually our first meeting is today, looking at how we can advance technology. And finally, with all that information today, which is a lot, we want to prioritize these improvements, come back to you and seek input for a 1, 3, and 5-year implementation plan on how we go forward from here. So with that, if you have any other questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
So as far as the prioritizing, you're gonna have a meeting today? Like how many meetings do you need to have?
Oh, no, this meeting today is for the VSSS, the BSS, the system, surveillance system. That's our meeting this afternoon.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. I'm just saying, I'm asking how many meetings are you gonna have before you can come back and report to us about how it's going?
I'll turn that over to Jessica.
I don't know what our timeline is. I think we could come back, and I know developing the crime prevention through environmental design implementation plan is part of our FY26 strategic initiatives. I believe this is something we could accomplish in the first or second quarter.
Okay, can we come back in October and just get an update on how it's going? Because this is like life and death. So safety is always number one to me. And so that's why I'm pushing this.
We might be better off with November, and I'm doing the math and thinking, Madam Chair, what's on our agendas.
Okay.
So I don't think we have a study session planned for the month of November. Pat can kick me if I'm incorrect, but I know that we do have detailed report outs in September and October.
Oh, okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Station paver replacements. Who's making that decision and what's that gonna look like?
Darren, I'm going to invite Darren Curry to the podium. Darren's our Chief Maintenance Officer. While he gets himself settled, note that some of our original stations have pavers, whereas most of our new stations have concrete. And so as we move forward with our preventative maintenance program, we will have to evaluate whether we're going to resettle, I don't mean replace, but clean and then put those pavers into place, or if we want to resurface them. Darren, do you want to provide an update on that?
Yes, thank you, Jessica. Madam Chair, members. Actually, we'll start with the pavers. A couple things going on, specifically in the 19th corridor. We just recently received some feedback from City of Phoenix, PTD. We put a lot of effort. As you know, we brought a lot of the insourcing of the cleaning. We know if we make it look cleaner, paint, we have a presence there, does make a difference. So that's already underway. We're getting positive feedback. The pavers, we actually had scheduled earlier for the 19th corridor. However, with South Central opening, we didn't want to go into a single track. Well, as we were opening up the A and B line, the reason for the single track is the operation of the rail car. We literally have to take out 3 stations. So we're not designed so that we could single track around 1 station, come back. So it's actually a 3-station project. So we're running out of time. We also looked at funding, and so we are revisiting this as we're putting together our FY27 budget, which will start on here pretty soon. We've worked out a operation plan, and so we need to bring that, plus, revise it, take a look at it. And then we need to start having conversations of, what it would entail. Costing, it actually makes sense if we do all 3, since we're going to have to single track around them, but it's a huge impact to operations and to our customers. So we're trying to land it where it's the least impactful, but we'll be able to come back to you a little bit in the future of what our plans are. So that's just an example, just in the 19th corridor. We're constantly with the pavers having to go back, and as we power wash and clean, which is all great, except when we do that, we're taking all of the sand and the bedding, and now everything's unlevel. So then we have to pay to bring it all back in, level it, and put it back down. So as someone has said, our new stations, they're concrete. They're designed more to maintain, where some of our older stations had the pavers. We even have it down on 44th Street, throughout the alignment of the older stations. So this is a project that we'll have to go throughout our entire system.
Okay, I want to know what stations are determined for paver replacement, who determines what is going to be replaced, what the cost is, and how do you work with the cities on replacement of these areas? Because the reason why I'm asking this is because this was intentionally designed the way it was designed. Now, I understand there are issues and dynamics with it, but you have to bring back the community or the people that were involved in this space. And it says improvements are underway. So I was assuming these were underway, but I'm hearing now it's going to 2027. My other question is 19 North. How did 19 North get chosen over other stations that are just as problematic as 19 North? 19 North just opened up. So those are questions you can tell me offline, but this is my thought process as I'm hearing this.
So I think short answer is, how did 19 North get chosen and how are we going to work with City of Phoenix and community? I would say 19 North was chosen and we, as a matter of our day-to-day operations, work very closely with city staff. But 19 North was previously an end-of-line station, and feedback from the community as well as incident data is what drove crime prevention through environmental design investments in the 19th corridor, particularly at the 19th North Station. It was designed through a little bit different lens. It's not to say it was designed badly, but I will say that the way people interact in public spaces and behave in public spaces is a little bit different than the way those original stations were constructed. So that was need. And then moving forward on some of the stations Darren is referring to in the pavers, that's really based on state of good repair. So what happens with them and how those decisions made, maintenance will lead it, but in coordination with the community. And we are aware that at some stations, the pavers are actually laid out and configured in such a way that it's a piece of public art. So we would move respecting that, and it could be replace the pavers. And when I say replace them, put pavers back in, or it could be create a new surface. But we would work with City of Phoenix in this case on that. 44th Street received some investment through a crime prevention, through environmental design lens because of the need there. That is our arrival station associated with Sky Harbor Airport, and it's also a pretty busy station. We've worked very closely with Phoenix Police Department and the Transit Enforcement Unit over the years to try and increase surveillance at that location. There were temporary, for a long time, temporary kind of Jersey barriers and bike racks around that station. And so in order to remove those, we had to make some investments that were more lasting. So need, but the good news is a more formulaic, systematic approach will be delivered for implementation of SEPTA through this work.
Thank you. So this is just information. Councilman Heredia, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Are any of your lines on here? All right. We are now to, thank you. We are now to item 4, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Am I correct? Okay. We have nothing. I don't hear anything. If you have anything, speak. Item number 5 is the next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 18th, 2025 at 11:15 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.